my own space station. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 226 Rat breeding is recognized. That's right, Jens Hangping affirmed. Do you think I'm so easily fooled? Although I slept for a while, I still know that crystal cores grow from the heads of zombies, Biology said, disbelieving. If you don't believe me, I'll take you to see. Jens Hangping said. The two left the warehouse and randomly arrived at a prefabricated house. Soldiers patrolled inside 24 hours a day. You guys go out first, Commander Yen ordered. Yes, sir. The soldiers saluted and then retreated as soon as Biology entered the prefabricated house. He was assaulted by the foul smell inside. Focusing his eyes, he saw stacks upon stacks of cages inside, and in the cages were all rats. Each cage was 30 centimeters high, divided into upper and lower layers to save space. Several cages were grouped together and stacked on top of each other because there were so many rats. The prefabricated house was filled with continuous squeak sounds. Old Yan, are you raising rats in the military region? Biology asked in disbelief. He couldn't believe that the Southwest military region had become like this. It completely refreshed his understanding. Extraordinary measures are needed in extraordinary times. Jens Hangping still smiled faintly, without any intention of repentance. I really want to dismiss you from your position right now. Biology looked at him as if he were a stranger. Then it's settled. Don't come crying and asking me for the method of raising rats. Jens Hangping pretended to threaten. I'm asking you for the method? You're obsessed with raising rats, aren't you? Biology was already a little unhappy. What if I told you that those crystal cores you just saw all came from these rats? Jens Hangping asked. Rats? Biology was just about to continue his rant, but suddenly stopped after a 3-second pause. His eyes suddenly lit up. Great! This method is great! What a brilliant idea! Biology's face turned from cloudy to sunny, the kind of bright sunny day. Of course, it was good. There was no need to send people out to hunt zombies, no need to waste a single bullet, no need to consume a drop of gasoline. Moreover, the zombies outside were being killed less and less, but the rats could be raised more and more. Furthermore, hunting zombies required well-trained soldiers, but raising rats could be done even by an old man with this method. Wouldn't there be as many crystal cores as one could want, eh? That's not right. Biology suddenly thought of the problem here. You're raising so many rats, it requires a lot of food. Where does this food come from? Biology asked. The food problem is easy to solve. We have negotiated with Huatong Business Association, and all the scraps left over from their food factories processing are sold to our Southwest military region at a low price. Jens Hangping said. Jens Hangping specifically said our Southwest military region to tell him not to have any crooked ideas. These scraps all belong to our Southwest military region. Waste utilization, a good method. Biology's eyes regained their brilliance. Then, if these rats want to produce crystal cores, they need to be zombified, right? And they have to be slaughtered, right? How are these problems solved? Biology continued to ask questions. Zombification is simple. We have special isolation cages, and there will be a few zombified zombie rats in the cages. As long as you put the new rats in, they will naturally zombify. As for slaughtering, we don't need to worry about it. Huatong Business Association has built slaughterhouses in the military region. As long as the zombified rats are sent to the slaughterhouse, they will all be turned into crystal cores in 10 minutes. Of course, a few zombie rats will be left in the cages as seed rats for the next batch of rat zombification, Jens Hangping explained. In that case, wouldn't a few people be able to manage such a large room? Biology asked. More than that. Our soldiers work in 3 shifts. 5 people per shift. Each breeding room requires 15 people. Jens Hangping said his arrangement was actually loose and disorganized, and the workload didn't require 15 people at all. It's just that there were plenty of people in the military region. What's the harm in arranging a few more people? Anyway, it's better to have everyone do the work easily. Biology expressed his contempt for his show-off behavior. 15 people are nothing in terms of cost. Not to mention 15 people, 150 people are nothing. Old Yan, let's go. Back to the office. Biology turned and went out. What's wrong? Don't you want to take another look? Yan Zhangping said meaningfully. No more looking, let's go. Go sit in your office, Biology said impatiently. Eager to go to the office, Yan Zhangping smiled and shook his head, knowing that he was tempted in the office. Old Yan, first show me the combat suit you just mentioned. Biology said he wanted to see how much Yan Zhangping was exaggerating. Yan Zhangping called a soldier to demonstrate on the spot. Biology praised repeatedly. He didn't expect that such awesome things had been created in just a few months since the combat suit had been verified. He believed that other aspects were also true. Yan Zhangping waved his hand, and the soldiers retreated. Old Yan, I think the method of raising rats is feasible, Biology said after thinking for a long time. Chapter 227 Chamber of Commerce Closing Meeting. Of course, otherwise, why would I spend so much time and energy on this? Yan Zhangping replied matter-of-factly, as if he didn't understand Biology's meaning. What I mean is, since there's a good method, it should be popularized throughout the army, Biology said with a very thick face. Didn't you just say I'm obsessed with raising rats? Yan Zhangping threw the words back at him. Did I say that? I don't seem to remember. Biology frowned and recalled, looking like he had no impression at all. If one didn't know what was going on, they would really be fooled by his acting skills. Act. You keep acting for me. Yan Zhangping pointed at him with a smile, and said, I'm talking to you about serious matters. Biology interrupted him. I don't think it's necessary to popularize it. Yan Zhangping also became serious. Not necessary? Why? Biology didn't understand. We can make the breeding methods public and encourage various resettlement camps to breed them. Yan Zhangping said. Biology pondered for a long time and said, letting the resettlement camps raise them is a win-win solution. It allows the resettlement camps to have something to do and also greatly increases the production of crystal cores. However, this matter still needs to be carefully considered. I don't think it's appropriate for the council to take the lead. The general direction of letting them be self-reliant and show their abilities cannot be changed. We can't let them develop the idea of relying on the council again. So, I think we should not interfere in this matter and let the military region handle it. Yan Zhangping nodded. This was the real Biology, a Biology with a well-thought-out plan. Binjiang City, headquarters of the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce. Today is the last day of training for the 1,200 reserve personnel recruited from various resettlement camps. At a little after 8 in the morning, the trainees all arrived at the auditorium. Today is their graduation meeting. The structure of the Chamber of Commerce's auditorium is a bit similar to a movie theater. The stage is not big and is located relatively low. The audience seats extend upwards in a stepped manner. The auditorium is generally used for online meetings, multimedia teaching, and large conference rooms. The full capacity inside is more than 1,600 people. The positions further back are equipped with LCD screens and amplifiers to ensure that people sitting in the back can see and hear clearly. The meeting was about to begin, and everyone had taken their seats one after another. They were a little nervous, wondering what kind of work they would be assigned next. This month has been the most comfortable period they have had in the past year. Here, they don't have to worry about zombies attacking in the middle of the night, and they don't have to worry about 3 meals a day. They have obtained a comfortable life comparable to that before the apocalypse, and they all sincerely hope that such a life can continue. They have already made up their minds in their hearts that as long as there is a chance, they will definitely seize it firmly. No matter how much it costs, no matter how hard they need to work, they will strive to stay here. Of course, they also know that the pressure of competition is very high. At this moment, none of the people sitting in the auditorium are rookies. They were all top students or leaders in various industries before the apocalypse. It is not easy to stand out from these people. No one communicated, no one chatted. They just sat in their seats, waiting anxiously. Before long, the substitute teachers walked in together and sat down in the front row. Those substitute teachers also looked serious, and they didn't look much more relaxed than the trainees. They were even more worried than these trainees. After the trainees complete their studies, they are destined to be assigned to various positions in the Chamber of Commerce, with a bright future. But they are very worried about their own future. Will they be sent back to Kyoto after the course is over? No one wants to go back to Kyoto anymore, because those days were really too difficult. Kyoto is under curfew within the city. Everyone stays at home and is not allowed to go out. They can only get very little living allowance every day, and it is difficult to fill their stomachs. Moreover, the types of supplies are scarce, and it often takes a great price to get something useful to them. Compared with Kyoto, this place is simply heaven. They can move freely and have unlimited supplies. They also get paid, and the salary can buy anything they need. Everyone is friendly, and you don't need to look at anyone's face. And you don't need to beg for help for a little thing. They used to be intellectuals, and they were extremely repulsed by this. But during the time in Kyoto, they were forced to do so every day by life among them. There was a professor in his 50s who knelt down to a supply distributor in his 30s in order to find an antipyretic medicine for his lover. He will never forget that experience in his life. Therefore, these professors in charge of teaching also communicated privately, and they also wanted to find an opportunity to stay if the trainees knew what the teachers were thinking at this moment. I wonder what they would think. Their competitors are not only the classmates who are receiving training together, but also their teachers. Chapter 228 Professor Li finds Niu Xingwang. After the teachers were seated, the host quickly walked onto the stage in the middle. Respected instructors, fellow students, good morning. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, a month has passed. The host delivered a long speech filled with emotion, but the students and instructors didn't pay attention. Next, let us warmly welcome the chairman to give the graduation speech. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, everyone's emotions finally became enthusiastic. The most anticipated content was about to be announced. From the applause of the students, I can hear that you have been waiting for this moment for a long time, Niu Xingwang said jokingly as he walked onto the stage. Haha, the students laughed. To be honest, I have attended many meetings. Sometimes the audience below are leaders from various units, sometimes they are workers from construction sites, and sometimes they are internal employees of the company. However, this is my first time giving a speech at a graduation ceremony, Niu Xingwang said. Haha, the students continued to laugh. During this period, I think the biggest question in everyone's mind is what are the arrangements for the future? Can we stay in the Chamber of Commerce? Everyone quieted down and listened attentively. Actually, I had instructed beforehand that you were forbidden from revealing any information about future arrangements. Why did I do this? I just wanted everyone to have a sense of crisis at all times. Don't think that your job is stable and give up your efforts. Let me tell you, even if you slack off at work, you will face the risk of being fired at any time. Now, I will explain the work arrangements for you in the future. The Huatuang Chamber of Commerce has established branches of the Chamber of Commerce in your respective resettlement areas. It is expected that the office locations of the branches will be completed one after another in the next few days. Of course, the progress of the Mercenary Guild is also similar. In the near future, you will be sent to the Chamber of Commerce branches and Mercenary Guild branches in your respective resettlement areas. I hope that you can be diligent and pragmatic, and integrate the knowledge you have learned with the work practice as soon as possible to become qualified employees. Employees who perform well and achieve outstanding results in their positions will have the opportunity to work at the headquarters. Niu Xingwang paused at this point because the students on the scene were experiencing significant emotional fluctuations. They realized that everyone was hired. There was no competitive relationship between them. Some girls covered their mouths with excitement, and tears streamed down their faces before the apocalypse. They were top students, the best in everyone's eyes. But after the apocalypse came, society developed a new atmosphere. Highly educated people were not as popular as a security guard patrolling the streets. If they had no way to get ahead, they would have no choice but to marry someone casually. But now, they had a new choice. They were all lucky. Each resettlement area only had 60 places. Being selected from hundreds of thousands of resettlement area members could be said to be a 1 in 10,000 probability. Of course, you have other options. In addition to the first batch of 20 resettlement areas for cooperation, we will open up more cooperation opportunities in the future. At that time, the backbones of other branches will also be selected from among you. Therefore, the space for growth is very large. Niu Xingwang continued, I only have one requirement for you. Treat the Chamber of Commerce as your own home, and treat the affairs of the Chamber of Commerce as your own. Can everyone do it? Niu Xingwang asked. Yes, a thunderous shout erupted from the scene. Not bad. Your voices are loud and clear. It seems that everyone is full of confidence, Niu Xingwang said with a smile. Today, everyone gets a day off. You can walk around and take a look at the Chamber of Commerce. Your employee cards have already been preloaded with 1 month's salary, plus last month's salary, and you also have a lot of points. If you want to buy something, you can buy some to take back. But let me remind you, it's best not to buy too much. Because soon, these things can be bought in every Chamber of Commerce branch. Niu Xingwang said. After Niu Xingwang finished speaking, the host said a few closing remarks, and the closing ceremony was considered over. Finally, all the students stood up, saluted the instructors, and then took a group photo from beginning to end. The future arrangements of the instructors were never mentioned. Therefore, The instructors were all worried. When the students came to greet them and take photos, they just responded simply. One bold person directly left the auditorium and walked towards Niu Xingwang's office. "Professor Li, what can I do for you?" Niu Xingwang hurriedly got up to greet him when he saw that it was an instructor from the academy who came to him. "Chairman, I came to ask you, what are the plans for us instructors next?" Professor Li asked. "To be honest, Professor Li, we are still discussing this matter internally," Niu Xingwang said awkwardly. "Oh. Are there any difficulties?" Professor Li asked. "That's right, there are some difficulties. Since you are here, let's discuss it." Niu Xingwang motioned for Professor Li to sit down. "Chairman, please speak," Professor Li said as he sat down. Chapter 229. Where there is need there is hope. Professors, everyone here is a top expert in the field. To be honest, the Chamber of Commerce really needs a large number of related talents. From the bottom of my heart, I sincerely hope you can stay, Niu Xingwang said. Professor Li's eyes lit up instantly upon hearing this. Where there's a need, there's hope. However, as you know, everyone was seconded from the Ministry of Culture in the first place. Since it's a loan, it must be repaid, Niu Xingwang added, making a complete 180-degree turn. Professor Li's eyes dimmed, and he frowned, nodding his head. They had considered this point. "Actually, we have considered negotiating with the Ministry of Culture to see if we can keep everyone here permanently." Niu Xingwang made another 180-degree turn. Professor Li seemed to see hope again, staring intently at Niu Xingwang. "However, I'm not quite sure what everyone wants. If everyone wants to return to Kyoto, wouldn't I be doing a disservice with good intentions, don't you think?" Niu Xingwang said. "President, you can rest assured on this point. I solemnly state that everyone's intention is the same as mine. If possible, we all want to stay in the Chamber of Commerce," Professor Li hurriedly clarified. "Really?" Niu Xingwang was overjoyed. "Really?" Professor Li confirmed very positively. "Then do you have any other requests?" Niu Xingwang asked. "What other requests could we have? As long as we can stay, everything else is negotiable," Professor Li replied. "Is that so? Then I have a suggestion." "Professor Li, please listen," Niu Xingwang said. "Okay, please tell me," Professor Li said. "Here's the thing, I want to establish a school here in Binjiang, called Hultung Business School, specializing in training talents for our Chamber of Commerce. What do you think?" Niu Xingwang asked. "A great thing." Professor Li's eyes shone with a golden light. "Wasn't this like a pillow when one was sleepy? If you professors are willing to join our Hultung Business School, I think this matter is feasible," Niu Xingwang said. "We are willing. Of course, we are willing. You don't know, this old bone of mine is afraid of being idle. Now that there is such a good opportunity, how could I be unwilling?" Professor Li was overjoyed and quickly agreed. "What about the other professors?" Niu Xingwang asked. "I'll talk to them. Don't worry, if they know about this, I guarantee they'll be so happy they won't be able to sleep." The dark clouds on Professor Li's face finally dissipated, and he immediately felt much more relaxed. "Since that's the case, then I'll have to trouble Professor Li. I promise here that for those who are willing to come to Binjiang, our Chamber of Commerce will give them a house. It will be in our underground base, a 200-square-meter independent department for each person," Niu Xingwang promised. "It doesn't need to be that big, just a place to live is enough." Professor Li declined. Their requirements were not high, as long as they could stay. "It needs to be. Everyone's family members can be brought over then," Niu Xingwang said. "What?" Professor Li was shocked and stood up directly. "What's wrong, Professor Li?" Niu Xingwang asked. "Family, are they also arranged for?" Professor Li asked in disbelief. "It's for direct relatives, as long as they are willing to come. It's not an arrangement either. They can live in the base, but work is not guaranteed," Niu Xingwang explained. "It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. This is already very good." Professor Li waved his hand excitedly, and the other hand quickly wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes. "Sorry, I'm a little too excited," Professor Li added after wiping the corners of his eyes. "It's okay. Professor Li, how about this? After you go back, discuss what I said with everyone and listen to the opinions of the other professors. If everyone really thinks so, then I will go and talk to the Ministry of Culture. In my opinion, there shouldn't be a big problem." "Why do I say that?" "Because the Ministry of Culture doesn't have enough positions and the material reserves are not sufficient. If everyone can come to Binjiang, the pressure on the Ministry of Culture can be reduced," Niu Xingwang said. "That's indeed the case. Okay, I'll go back and talk to everyone. Once we have a result, I'll come back to you," Professor Lee said he was already a little anxious and wanted to go back quickly to bring the good news to everyone. Okay, I'll wait for your news. Niu Xingwang smiled. August 1st, 2055. This is an epoch-making day for the Chamber of Commerce today. The first batch of 20 Chamber of Commerce branches and mercenary guild branches in cooperative resettlement areas will open simultaneously in order to endorse the Huituang Chamber of Commerce. The top leaders of each resettlement area personally attended and participated in the ribbon-cutting ceremony at this moment. The Beixia resettlement area in Jingmen City is particularly lively. The people here already know the power of the Huituang Chamber of Commerce, so the brand influence has been established quickly early in the morning. The entrance of the Chamber of Commerce was already crowded with people, to be precise. Not only the entrance, but the area within a 1-kilometer radius was already jam-packed. People from all directions were constantly rushing here. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Chamber of Commerce Branch Opening. Huituang Chamber of Commerce Beixia Branch Grand Opening. Apply for a membership card on the spot, get 10 in return for every 10 spent, and receive 110 points for every 100 points recharged. Spend and get a chance to win a prize. Every 100 points earns you one chance to win a prize. Luxurious gifts await you. People flooded into the department store area on the first floor, and various marketing sounds rose one after another. Everyone seemed to return to the feeling before the apocalypse. The difference was that the scene in front of them was a bit discordant. The department store area was very clean, and under the illumination of various lights, it appeared magnificent. However, the people shopping in the mall were disheveled and ragged. Due to long-term malnutrition, they generally looked sallow and emaciated. This cake smells so good. I wish I could eat one. It's actually steamed buns. My goodness. There are actually steamed buns. At this moment, people were not very interested in other things. They all gathered in the food and beverage area although they couldn't afford it. It was good to smell it. If they were lucky, it would be even better to pick up half a leftover bun that someone else couldn't finish. The staple food area was already overcrowded, and the meat area was so crowded that there was no room to stand. Damn it. This is actually chicken. There's still chicken these days. Someone was shocked. Braised pork. Stewed ribs. My God. I can't take it anymore. If I keep watching, I'm going to bite my tongue off. That's immoral. They're actually grilling lamb skewers. Can't you be less cruel? Slurp. Many people watched while violently sucking the saliva flowing from their mouths. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Huituang Chamber of Commerce. All goods in the Chamber of Commerce will be traded using membership cards. Customers who need to apply for a membership card, please go to the service desk for consultation. An advertisement sounded on the radio. However, most people just pretended not to hear it. They also wanted to apply for a membership card, but the problem was that they had nothing in their pockets. What could they use to apply? They could only watch. Good news, good news. In order to restore the normal living order of the Beixia settlement as soon as possible, the headquarters has decided to provide small, interest-free points loans to residents of this settlement who are between 16 and 60 years old. Those who need it can go to the service desk for consultation. Another broadcast sounded in order to ensure that everyone could hear it. These messages were played in a loop on the radio. What? Points loan, interest-free, let's go take a look. People who heard this news began to gather at the service desk. There were already many staff members on standby in the service area. They gave detailed explanations to the people who came to inquire. The amount of the small, interest-free points loan varied depending on individual circumstances. It was mainly based on several aspects such as age, education, and marital status. People between the ages of 30 and 50, with education, and who were married could get the highest loan amount, reaching a terrifying amount of 300,000 points. In other cases, the amount decreased in turn, but the minimum was also 100 points. After understanding the details, most people chose to apply survive first, and consider the rest later. Several staff members were operating at the counter at the same time, so the speed of processing membership cards was also very fast. People who received their membership cards rushed into the food and beverage area without thinking. Fill their stomachs first. If everyone just watched, no one would be able to eat, and everyone wouldn't have any thoughts. But now, more and more people were holding bowls, grabbing skewers, and eating with greasy mouths, which was unacceptable. Who could stand just watching? Under this stimulation, more and more people flocked to the service area, vying to apply for membership cards. As for whether there would be pitfalls or whether they would be deceived, no one cared. Anyway, everyone was applying, so they wouldn't be the only ones suffering. Basically, this wave of small, interest-free loans emptied the settlement members' accounts. However, the headquarters didn't care at all. These points had to be circulated. When people had points in their hands, they had the prerequisite for releasing productivity. In the process of circulation, the value of the points would be created, the settlement's tax revenue could be raised, and the market could be activated. Compared with the crowds at the Huituang Chamber of Commerce, the mercenary guild seemed a bit deserted. The person in charge of the guild was not worried and just waited. People borrowed points from the headquarters, so they had to pay them back, right? To pay them back, they had to find something to do. At this time, the mercenary guild's business would become busy. The situation in the Beisha settlement was still good after all. Combat equipment had already been popularized among security team members, so people were not unfamiliar with it. Therefore, intermittently, many people came to the mercenary guild to browse. It's just that no one dared to rent the guild's weapons and equipment. They also didn't know what they could rent them for. The situation in other settlements was not so good. In some settlements, a morning had passed, and very few people had visited the Chamber of Commerce. However, this situation had completely changed. By noon, people who went to visit first ate and drank their fill inside, and then spread the news everywhere. People around them saw the steamed buns and sesame cakes that the people spreading the news were carrying, and one by one couldn't help but head to the Chamber of Commerce. One person told 10, and 10 told 100. Under the lure of delicious food, in a few hours, the traffic to the Chamber of Commerce reached an exaggerated level. Chapter 231, Red Lotus Cult Intensifies Attack. Overall, the opening ceremony of the Chamber of Commerce was a complete success in each settlement. A large number of people have already registered as members. Oriental Star's back-end data showed that on August 1st alone, the number of member registrations had reached over 1 million. On average, that's over 50,000 per settlement. As the news spreads further among the population, this data should be refreshed very quickly. While the Chamber of Commerce's business was booming, the holy envoys of the Red Lotus sect were not idle either. That night, the holy envoys in each city received a call from Chu Xiangping and began to launch the strongest wave of attacks on each settlement. This time, they were going to get serious. After a period of searching, the smallest city among the 20 had already reached a scale of 100,000 zombies. The larger ones were approaching 1 million. In order to achieve better results, Oriental Star had dispatched all the transport planes in the base a few days in advance to divert the zombies. To avoid suspicion, the operations all started after dark. Oriental Star produced many containers in the base and transported these containers to cities with more zombies. Subsequently, the holy envoys drove some of the zombies into the containers, locking the doors after they were full. The transport planes lowered high-strength ropes, hoisted the containers, and then flew at high altitude, transporting them to cities with fewer zombies. This was repeated over and over. The holy envoys certainly didn't know where these transport planes came from, and could only attribute it to the Red Lotus sect's deep foundation. After a few days of adjustment, the number of zombies in basically every city had reached a scale of over 300,000. As the number of zombies continues to decrease, it will become increasingly difficult to launch attacks of this scale in the future. However, Oriental Star has already thought of new methods and is currently testing them. August 1st, a little after 10 p.m. just as all the settlements had quieted down, the zombies had arrived outside the city gates, ready to attack the city at any moment. Jingmen City, Beisha settlement, sound the alarm. The patrolling security team had already noticed the abnormality outside the city. The number of zombies coming this time was more than ever before. Moreover, it felt like the killing intent was also a bit stronger than before. Woo woo woo. The alarm sounded in the night sky. The residents inside the settlement began to become restless. When Mayor Su heard that the zombies were coming, he didn't care at all and even scolded the patrolling security team members for making a fuss and exaggerating. Turn off the alarm for me. So what if a few zombies come? Why are you sounding the alarm? Mayor Su shouted as he climbed onto the city gate tower. Before he even arrived, his voice arrived first. Mayor Su, the situation is different this time, the team member said aggrievedly. Oh? How is it different? As he spoke, Mayor Su looked outside the city. It really is different. Mayor Su frowned. Usually, the zombies roar very loudly, but you can tell that they are just trying to scare people. The final result is always a lot of noise and little rain, but this time it's different. The roaring sound is very low, giving people a very fierce feeling. Notify all team members equipped with combat suits and laser guns to come and assemble quickly. Mayor Su quickly ordered. "We've already notified them. They should be here soon," the team member replied. "Good. Increase vigilance, and don't let the zombies climb onto the city wall," Mayor Su emphasized. Yes, soon. The zombies had gathered almost completely, and they launched a fierce attack on the city wall. They were like they had been injected with chicken blood, and their movements were particularly swift. As the zombies piled higher and higher, they gradually approached the top of the city. "Mayor, it's dangerous here, you should leave first," the security captain shouted. "No, I will live and die with the settlement." Mayor Su resolutely refused to leave. "Take Mayor Su away," the security captain ordered. Yes, two team members stepped forward and directly carried Mayor Su away. "What are you doing? Let go of me, let go of me." Mayor Su was anxious. His feet floundered, but unfortunately it was all in vain. "Mayor Su, we have the protection of combat suits. We will definitely defend the top of the city. Please rest assured," the captain guaranteed. Mayor Su was carried back just like that. What puzzled everyone was that the Special Forces Regiment directly under the Southwest Military Region stationed at the bridgehead was not attacked by the zombies at all. The people of Changjing Settlement, who had just moved 2 kilometers away, were also fine. However, they did not come to provide support either. Changjing Settlement didn't dare to, and the soldiers didn't have the authority. Yan Xiangping's order was to guard the Yangtze River bank, and he had specifically instructed them to prohibit any form of assistance to the settlements. The officers didn't understand why, but they didn't ask either. It was enough to execute the order. The holy envoys hiding in the distance and watching were also trembling like crazy. On one hand, they had to carry out the protector's order to order the zombies to attack the settlement, and on the other hand, they were worried that the people in the settlement would not be able to hold on and there would be casualties. It was simply too difficult. The team members without protective suits were responsible for delivering full energy bars one trip after another, and collecting the used energy bars to take back for recharging. "Keep your eyes peeled and prioritize attacking the zombies that are about to come up," the captain shouted loudly, issuing orders. Chapter 232 Tasted the Sweetness. Holy crap, the captain suddenly saw zombies climbing up and ran over, plunging his knife into the zombie's eye. Then, he pulled the knife out and kicked it off the city wall. "2 more people over here." He constantly ran back and forth on the city wall, patching up the defensive gaps. 1,000 against 300,000. The difference was not just significant. However, the holy envoys were also constantly judging the situation. Feeling that the situation was not good, they hurriedly slowed down the intensity of the attack. Feeling that the people above had caught their breath, they increased the intensity of the attack again. In short, the purpose was to make them feel the pressure while still being able to hold on. The battle continued until almost dawn when the zombies hurriedly retreated after several hours of attack. Nearly 100,000 zombies had died. However, 50,000 of these zombies had been secretly decomposed by the miniature queen bee. The remaining 50,000 zombies were considered a small benefit for the settlement. Only by letting them feel the benefits of hunting zombies would they be more motivated. Even with just these 50,000 zombies, they spent a whole day cleaning up. It wasn't until almost dark that the crystal cores were completely extracted. 50,000 crystal cores equaled 5 million points, which was a considerable amount for the current settlement. "These are all crystal cores." Mayor Su walked to the city gate tower, looking at the pile of crystal cores below the city, his eyes shining brightly. This battle was a pleasure. Mayor Su was very satisfied with the protection of the combat suits. There were no deaths, only a few people who twisted their arms or legs, which would be fine after a few days of recuperation. 0 casualties while gaining 50,000 crystal cores. How could Mayor Su not be happy? Pass down the order. All team members who participated in the battle will be rewarded with 500 points each. Team members responsible for logistics will be rewarded with 100 points each. Mayor Su waved his hand. The soldiers, hearing this news, erupted in cheers. Several hundred points were not a small amount. 1 crystal core was equivalent to 100 points. If used to buy daily necessities, it could buy a lot of things, but these points were not enough to make everyone so excited. There were 2 reasons why everyone was excited. One was because they had never fought such a great victory before. In the past, when zombies came to attack, they mainly focused on avoiding them. Eliminating zombies was rare. Being able to kill 1 or 2 was already a great feat. But last night, they killed more than 50,000 zombies in one night, which could be described as unprecedented. In reality, it was 100,000, but 50,000 were secretly withheld by the Chamber of Commerce. It couldn't really be said to be secretly, as the settlement was able to harvest 50,000 thanks to Dongfang Chen. So, it couldn't be said that the Chamber of Commerce took advantage. If it wasn't for wanting to play the long game and encourage the people of the settlement to actively collect crystal cores, they wouldn't even get a sip of the soup. Dongfang Chen could have cleaned it all up in minutes. The other reason everyone was excited was because this was the first time they had received a reward after completing a task. In the past, they just worked hard, and it was good enough if they had something to eat after completing the task. If you didn't want to do it, get out. There were plenty of people who wanted to do it. In this world, the security team members were the most popular, and the threshold was low. Which family wasn't trying to get this job? Not for the salary, but to take care of the family and prevent them from being bullied. 100 points were also not a small amount. A pound of pork was only 5 points, and a pound of flour was 2 points. There were too many things that 100 points could do, enough for a family's food for a week. Mayor Su had no use for these crystal cores. He wanted points, so he quickly sent someone to invite the people from the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce. The staff were on site counting and packing. After counting, they reported the number to Mayor Su, 5.03 million points. Mayor Su was overjoyed when he saw this number. After deducting the rewarded points, he estimated that he could get around 4 million. The price of a combat suit was 20,000 points, so 4 million was equivalent to 200 combat suits. If this happened a few more times, how would this settlement develop? This victory aroused Mayor Su's long-buried ambition. The situation in other settlements was generally the same. Many settlements had not purchased combat suits in advance, but fortunately, after the mercenary guild opened, they could be rented because they had not been trained in advance. It took some time to adapt, which caused the combat effectiveness to be affected at the beginning. However, with the special care of the holy envoys, everything ended safely. After initially tasting the sweetness, the 20 cooperating settlements began to have ideas with crystal cores. They had everything, including weapons, ammunition, equipment, and supplies with ease. They dared to think about many things. Other settlements that had not yet cooperated were envious of this result, and some even cried bitterly, regretting their initial decision. One step late, every step late, seeing that other settlements were already eating meat, while their own settlements couldn't even supply porridge. This feeling was not pleasant. Why didn't I run faster in the first place? Why did I hesitate for a moment? I really want to slap myself a few times. Everyone had the same idea, but they could only be sour about it. There was no other way. They could only roll up their sleeves and prepare to get the next batch of places. Chapter 233 Popular Mosquito Repellent Bracelet. As expected, the first product to sell out at the trade association was a small gadget, a mosquito repellent bracelet. It was currently summer, and the probability of being infected with a virus from a mosquito bite was very high. In the past, people used clumsy methods, burning wormwood in their residences to drive them away with smoke. Not only was it choking, but the effect was not very ideal. Some people speculated that those who were likely to attract mosquitoes had mostly died last year. Therefore, since the beginning of summer this year, it was rare to see people infected with viruses from mosquito bites. Perhaps this was the most primitive natural selection. Cruel, yet invisibly maintaining the continuation of the species. Now, the mosquito repellent bracelet sold by the trade association has completely changed this. A mosquito repellent bracelet for 10 points was now basically affordable for everyone. The small thing had a big effect. Its working principle was very simple. After being worn, the bracelet could absorb the infrared radiation of the human body and convert it into energy. This energy was enough to support it to continuously release several frequencies of electromagnetic waves and ultrasonic waves. People could not feel the existence of these waves, but they had a good repellent effect on common mosquitoes. It didn't need to be charged or maintained. As long as it was worn on the hand, it could prevent mosquitoes from approaching, which was simply gospel for all survivors. Therefore, on the day the trade association opened, all the settlements combined sold 2 million pieces. In response, the people from the various trade association branches also gave the settlements a trick. They taught them how to use this information gap to make a small profit. Currently, only these 20 settlements have reached cooperation with the trade association. But everyone needs this kind of mosquito repellent bracelet. Then they could sell these bracelets to other settlements and earn a price difference. Why did the trade association do this? Because most of the settlements were not yet covered, but summer would pass quickly. If they didn't sell the goods during the hottest time, it would be difficult to sell them when the weather turned cold. And for the various settlements, this was a pain point and a rigid demand. It wouldn't be too much to double the profit by selling them casually, right? As for the other settlements that didn't have points, This was easy to solve. The trade association could provide special point loans. The various settlements could apply for a loan from the trade association headquarters for the purpose of purchasing emergency supplies in the short term. However, interest would be charged on the loan when the trade association settles in the settlement later. It would be deducted from the land transfer fee. In this way, they could use future points to do current things. The cooperating settlements were extremely excited when they heard this idea. Having tasted the sweetness of points, who would having more points now? This was the benefit of being the first batch to eat crabs, with the most profit. So, this news began to spread quickly among the various settlements. August 3, 2055, morning. Many settlement leaders once again flocked to the trade association base headquarters in Binjiang. Everyone's purpose here was very pure, to apply for point loans. The staff at the headquarters had already arranged everything, just waiting for everyone to sign the contract. Assembly line operation, submit information, review, apply for a membership card, a one-stop service. Dongfang Chen estimated that the single bracelet product would conservatively sell 500 million pieces according to the selling price of 10 points per bracelet. That would be 5 billion points in sales. The exchange ratio of points to crystal cores was 100 to 1. According to this ratio, a total of 50 million crystal cores could be earned. And his production cost, it can be said that there was no cost. A bracelet itself did not need to implant crystal core energy. It did not need to use crystal core energy to drive it. It was nothing more than wasting some materials, and then the workshops that produced these bracelets needed to consume some energy. The raw materials could be directly extracted from the soil and rock formations by the bee-ant robots, averaging to less than 1 point of loss per bracelet. So don't look at this thing as small. It was precisely because it was small and a rigid demand that it could become among. Its ability to attract money was definitely not much worse than combat uniforms. His other purpose in doing this was to try to avoid the spread of the virus and reduce human casualties. Of course, he was not a savior, and saving people had to be profitable. If there was no profit, he said he couldn't afford to save them. While the various settlements were busy earning points, Kyoto was brewing a major event. After resting in the southwest military region for a few days, Bailey Ji quietly returned to Kyoto. Kyoto was still under martial law at this time. The fake Bailey Ji was, after all, the nominal speaker. He issued an order to the central military region to block all entrances and exits through official channels. Secretly, the Red Robe sect was also lurking in various living circles in Kyoto, secretly investigating news with a combination of open and secret methods. After a few days, they still hadn't found any news. The mysterious gang that broke into the villa and rescued people had disappeared like vapor, and could not be found no matter what. And what was even more strange was, if Bailey Ji had escaped, why hadn't anyone come to question him? Even if others didn't know the situation, Shen Tuzhanghao probably already knew the inside story. But even he didn't show any expression, and resumed the construction project of the Mosin Arc base a few days ago, which was strange. The fake Bailey Ji sat in the office, feeling like he was sitting on pins and needles. The situation was very unclear. He felt that the crisis was approaching step by step, but he couldn't figure out where the crisis would break out from. Chapter 234, Dark Knight turns to help. Speaker, Ling Zhenhe saluted. He was very excited. Even when he was in the army, he had never seen such a high-ranking leader. This was the supreme commander of Hua country. The last time he was rescued, he was unconscious, so they hadn't really met. This was the safe house Daizhang set up when he last came to Kyoto. It looks ordinary on the surface, but a miniature queen bee has already been implanted underground, and a sufficient number of crystal cores have been stored. Of course, this configuration can only prevent ground attacks and cannot prevent airstrikes. Therefore, to be on the safe side, he also ordered the queen bee to build a concealable laser cannon. Yes. What's your name? Bailiji could tell at a glance that the person in front of him was a veteran. Reporting to the speaker, my name is Sea King, Ling Zhenhe replied. Sea King. That's a code name, right? What's your real name? Bailiji asked. Speaker, my real name is no longer used, Ling Zhenhe replied. Bailiji nodded and didn't ask any further. Some soldiers, in order to be undercover for a long time and carry out secret missions, would repeatedly brainwash themselves to implant their false names into their subconscious as much as possible. This was a need for the mission and also a need for safety, which he could understand. You are very outstanding, Bailiji praised. Thank you, Speaker. Ling Zhenhe gave another military salute. Alright, let's talk about the plan, Bailiji said. Speaker, judging from the current situation, the entire Kyoto has been completely under martial law. According to reliable sources, a large number of cult members are still lurking in the dark, Searching for your whereabouts, Ling Zhenhe said. Bailiji nodded, saying nothing, as this was expected. Now that he's back, how to operate to take down that imposter with minimal impact still needs to be carefully studied. Their only way is to find an opportunity to approach the imposter and then take him down with lightning speed to achieve a silent return. What they least want to see is a large-scale conflict. On the one hand, the command of the Central Military Region troop stationed in Kyoto is still in the hands of that imposter, and there would be many casualties if a conflict breaks out. On the other hand, the position of speaker is very sensitive, and every move affects the eyes of the people across the country. Making a fool of themselves would only embarrass the council. Therefore, no matter which aspect is considered, a silent return is the only option. In the past few days, the parliament building has been completely closed. We have carefully studied it, and it is very difficult to sneak in quietly, Ling Zhenhe continued. Bailiji still didn't speak, listening quietly. Therefore, for the present plan, it is best to enter openly and honestly, Ling Zhenhe said. His method, openly and honestly. Bailiji looked at Ling Zhenhe. Yes, someone must go to see the speaker openly and honestly, and then bring the person in, Ling Zhenhe said. That may not be easy, right? They are definitely not fools. It's not difficult to enter openly and honestly, but the difficulty lies in the fact that doing so will definitely not allow too many people to be brought in, nor can weapons be brought in. Bailiji said. In his opinion, wouldn't going in without people and weapons be like sending a sheep into a tiger's den? That's right, I estimate that at most, only one person can be brought in. Ling Zhenhe said. One person? Bailiji couldn't believe it. What's the difference between this and suicide? That's right. So the choice of this person is very crucial, Ling Zhenhe said. Oh, Bailiji could tell that Ling Zhenhe had a plan. Speaker, do you know about Dark Knight? Ling Zhenhe asked. Dark Knight? The speaker had no impression. Of course, he had no impression, because Dark Knight was established in the Central Military Region under the leadership of the Military and Political Department under the command of the imposter. At that time, all the Dark Knight members were selected from various resettlement centers across the country. It did take a lot of effort to find these asymptomatic carriers. Ling Zhenhe told Bailiji the whole story of the establishment of Dark Knight. I see, Bailiji understood, but in that case, I'm afraid we still can't mobilize the Dark Knight team, right? Bailiji asked after thinking for a moment. Speaker, let me introduce you to someone. Come in, Ling Zhenhe smiled. Bailiji looked towards the door. Report. Dark Knight Squad Captain Xiaolin reports to you. Shen Wengang walked in and saluted. This, Bailiji didn't understand. How could the captain of the Dark Knight Squad be here? Speaker, you don't have to worry. Xiaolin is one of us, a comrade worthy of trust. Ling Zhenhe smiled. Could it be that you already knew? Bailiji asked his doubts. Unless they already knew that the speaker was an imposter, how could they have placed someone inside Dark Knight so early? And it's the captain, not an ordinary member. It's absolutely impossible to place a captain in Dark Knight in the short term. The only explanation is that this captain was placed in a long time ago, possibly even a veteran. This is purely a coincidence. Xiaolin and I have known each other for a long time, and it just so happens that this operation can use him. Ling Zhenhe explained. He couldn't say the real reason, which was that there was someone else behind the scenes making arrangements. Chapter 235. Zhangzhangyu rushes to help Kyoto. Bailiji nodded. This really was divine assistance in the dark. That imposter probably never imagined that the Dark Knight he personally built would become a sharp blade to him. In that case, this matter will be much easier. Bailiji nodded. Yes, to be on the safe side, we also need the cooperation of the Southeast Military Region, Ling Zhenhe said. Bailiji nodded, indicating his approval. Multiple preparations, better safe than sorry. So he contacted Yan Xiangping, hoping that Yan Xiangping could convey his order to Zhuang Zhenyu. Why didn't Bailiji contact Zhuang Zhenyu directly? Because so far, only Yan Xiangping knows the whole thing. In order to minimize the risk, having Yan Xiangping relay the message is the safest option. Night of August 3, 2055. This was the most unsettling night in Kyoto in months. After a few months of calm, people heard the howls of zombies again. No one knew when so many zombies had appeared in Kyoto again. People closed their doors and windows, hiding in dark rooms. Shivering, everyone was praying that the zombies wouldn't find them. Kyoto had not been relocated, they were still in the city. Zombies could appear from any direction and attack any human residential area. The Central Military Region troops stationed in Kyoto quickly assembled and guarded all major traffic arteries. But after all, the city was too large, and after being dispersed to each intersection, the number of soldiers was already small. What's the situation? How can there be zombies? The fake speaker was very worried after hearing the military regions report the red-clothed sect members in Kyoto were all under his control, so whether there were zombies on the streets of Kyoto was entirely up to him, but today's matter was not right. He closed the doors and windows, took out the telegraph machine, and contacted the holy envoys in Kyoto, but after contacting them all, the result reported back was that they didn't know. Could it be spontaneous zombie attacks? He was a little unsure, so he issued an order for the holy envoys to control the situation and quell the zombie riots as soon as possible, but things didn't go as planned. No one knew what was going on. Tonight's zombies were unusually disobedient. It seemed like someone was playing tricks behind the scenes. Just as the holy envoys suppressed those low-level zombies, they immediately began to riot again. Over and over. The fake speaker was having a headache over this when the phone rang. Another worrying thing. Zhang Zhenyu of the Southeast Military Region called, requesting to mobilize troops to Kyoto to assist in the defense. At this time, the fake speaker understood that someone was definitely playing tricks. How could Zhang Zhenyu be so well informed and so diligent? Perhaps he already knew the inside story, saying he was coming to Kyoto to assist in the defense, but in reality, he was coming to capture the king. He definitely couldn't let him come. Once the troops entered the capital, the fun would be great. The Central Military Region is fully capable of dealing with the security of Kyoto. You only need to take care of your own jurisdiction, the fake speaker said. Yes. Zhang Zhenyu didn't say much and hung up the phone. Zhang Zhenyu said yes, but in reality, he sent people to Kyoto. 3 hours later it was already 0:10 a.m. Ding-ling-ling. The phone rang again. The fake speaker was still in the office, overwhelmed. One order after another was issued. But things were not developing in the direction he had expected at all, which was a headache. What's the matter? The fake speaker answered the phone. Report, Commander. Tens of thousands of troops from the Southeast Military Region have arrived in the South 3rd District, requesting to enter Kyoto. The person on the phone was an officer from the Central Military Region. They belonged to the troop sequence, so they didn't call him speaker, but commander. What? Tell them to immediately return to their respective garrisons and not enter Kyoto. The speaker exploded upon hearing this news. This Zhang Zhenyu is simply two-faced. He says he obeys orders, but secretly makes small moves. It's simply outrageous. The fake speaker hung up the phone, cursing angrily. Commander Zhang, the speaker has ordered you to immediately lead your troops back to their respective garrisons and not enter Kyoto. The officer stood in front of shouting loudly. Zhang Zhenyu ignored him, neither advancing nor retreating, just staying there as if nothing had happened. The officer on the other side was helpless and could only shout again and again. There was no way. The person on the other side was very important, and he couldn't afford to offend him. Not long after, a group of zombies rushed over, attacking the soldiers at the bang, bang, bang. The soldiers couldn't care so much and shot directly at the zombies. This was what Zhang Zhenyu was waiting for. Come, pass down the order, assist the brothers of the Central Military Region in eliminating the zombies, Zhang Zhenyu ordered. Yes, the messenger left to carry out the order. Clang, 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 bang, bang, bang. After the soldiers of the Southeast Military Region joined the battle, the situation immediately reversed. The attacking zombies were quickly eliminated. Thank you, Commander Zhang. The officer ran over and gave a military salute. All right. You continue to be on duty. We are going to enter Kyoto. Zombies are very dangerous. Your Central Military Region has insufficient troops, and I'm afraid it will cause civilian casualties, Zhang Zhenyu said. But the officer was very embarrassed. Zhang Zhenyu was very unhappy. The soldiers next to him stepped forward in unison, but did not raise their guns. Whole country has such a tradition that they do not point guns at their comrades unless necessary. Chapter 236, Zombie Disruption. Interception failed. They were only a few dozen people, while Zhang Zhenyu had brought tens of thousands. Not even close in terms of numbers. They were also clear that if Zhang Zhenyu insisted on entering Kyoto, they definitely couldn't stop him. The fact that they could still talk nicely was already giving him a great deal of face. Commander Zhang, I'm sorry, but it's my duty. I can't let you pass. The officer still refused to compromise. This matter is beyond your involvement. We are all soldiers of whole country, and I don't want us to fight each other. Step aside, Zhang Zhenyu said. The officer stood there, still unmoving. Arrange for a few people to keep an eye on them. We will continue to advance, Commander Zhang ordered. No longer wasting words with him. The officer also knew that his side was too few in number, simply an idiom, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. This was also good, saving himself from further difficulty. Commander Zhang was right. When gods fight, small fry like them can't get involved. He simply decided to ignore it. Let whatever happens happen at this time. Zhongzhangyu, while leading his troops towards the city, also had a frown on his face. Something about this whole situation felt off to him. Why could a real biology control zombies? The zombies just now were clearly cooperating with his actions. This was very abnormal. He had always believed that only people from the Redcoats could control zombies, but now was not the time to ask questions. He could only ask after everything was over. The imposter biology panicked a little when he learned that Zhongzhangyu was still advancing. Now the zombies were very uncooperative, and trying to mobilize them to intercept Zhongzhangyu was not feasible. He could only dispatch troops from the military region he couldn't care about so much right now, and quickly issued an order to the military region. The military region was completely confused after receiving the order. Wasn't it a good thing that the southeast military region's troops were coming to assist in the defense? With their assistance, wouldn't the zombie riot be quelled quickly? Why were they now withdrawing defenses from various residential areas to intercept Zhongzhangyu? This didn't make sense. Could this Zhongzhangyu have some ulterior motives? The senior officers of the central military region all had such thoughts after receiving the order. Once this thought arose, they immediately broke out in a cold sweat. However, soldiers take obedience to orders as their primary duty. Thinking about these things now was useless. They should quickly dispatch troops. Even dispatching people was not easy now, because the streets and alleys were full of zombies. If someone observed carefully, they would find that the zombies basically did not intercept Zhongzhangyu's troops. As soon as their troops approached, they immediately retreated. This resulted in their very fast advance. On the other hand, the central military region side was in trouble. Each squad was intercepted by layers of zombies, making it very difficult to withdraw. This resulted in the central military region headquarters 2 consecutive interception orders failing to be executed. How is Zhongzhangyu advancing so quickly? Don't the zombies attack them? In the headquarters, an officer asked with confusion after seeing the intelligence. His words stirred up a hornet's nest. This confirmed it. This Zhongzhangyu definitely had a problem, a big problem. It was possible that he was even colluding with the Redcoats. What they didn't know was that the real situation was completely opposite to their guesses. So what do we do now? Our troops are being entangled by zombies and probably can't get away for a while, another officer asked. The situation is urgent. If I'm not mistaken, Zhongzhangyu's target is the parliament building. Since the method of blocking the road is not working, we might as well directly order each squad to move closer to the parliament building and build fortifications around the building. I agree. The order was issued. After receiving the order, each squad rushed towards the parliament at all costs. On the other side, biology side also began to prepare for action. Speaker, it's time for us to appear, Ling Zhenhe reported. Okay, let's begin. Biology said he had experienced many big scenes, and this small battle could not see any inner waves at all. After receiving the instructions, Ling Zhenhe notified Shen Wengang. Shen Wengang took out the satellite phone and dialed. Report, Commander. This is Dongfang of the Dark Knight Squad. I have a situation to report to you. Speak. Our squad has discovered a suspected target in the North 2nd District. Do you want to arrest them? Shen Wengang asked for instructions. Suspected target? Arrest them immediately. The speaker replied excitedly. Yes, he still had a lot of confidence in the Dark Knight Squad. This was built by him, all our mutants. The combat power is the absolute ceiling. First to deal with some ordinary people, simply easy. Knowing that the Dark Knight Squad had found the target, the fake speaker's heart finally let go. No matter how fierce Zhongzhangyu was, as long as that person was caught, the situation would be calmed down quickly. 225, Shen Wengang called again. Report, Commander. The suspected target has been captured. A total of 2 people. But what? The imposter speaker was overjoyed to hear that they had been caught and hurriedly asked, it's just that this person's appearance? Shen Wengang pretended to be very embarrassed. The imposter speaker understood that he saw biology's appearance and had doubts. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Successfully arrived at the Parliament building. Shen Wengang said this as part of a prearranged plan. Although he had thrown out quite a few smoke screens, things were proceeding too smoothly, inevitably arousing suspicion. Other aspects were unfavorable news, but the Dark Knight Squad succeeded on their first try, which sounded a bit fake. Shen Wengang's words were meant to dispel some of that doubt. He was implying that the Dark Knight Squad didn't know the truth of the matter at all. Furthermore, Shen Wengang's doubts about the target's appearance served as indirect proof that they had indeed captured Bailey G. "You don't need to worry about that, bring him here immediately," the speaker said without explanation, explaining at this time would easily create complications. "Yes, sir," Shen Wengang acknowledged the order. 2:40. The Dark Knight squad arrived at the foot of the Parliament building. The building was now surrounded by layers of sentry posts. "Halt." Shen Wengang's vehicle was stopped as soon as it reached the outermost sentry post. The car stopped, and Shen Wengang got out. "Please show your identification," the soldier on duty said. Shen Wengang took out his credentials and handed them over. The soldier took the credentials, glanced at them, and returned them. "Please wait a moment, I need to consult with someone," the soldier said. Shen Wengang nodded. The soldier took out his phone and made a call. This was the speaker's order, so he could verify it however he wanted. So Shen Wengang just stood there, waiting patiently. A minute or two later, the soldier returned. "Let them pass," the soldier said. The other soldiers quickly opened the gate along the way. They were stopped twice more, but they managed to pass each time over a distance of a few hundred meters. It took them at least 20 minutes. Finally, they successfully arrived at the foot of the Parliament building. The Dark Knight squad, a group of 6, escorted 2 people out of the car and walked towards the entrance of the building. Unsurprisingly, they were stopped again. "Which one is the main culprit?" the intercepting soldier asked. "Him." Shen Wengang pointed. The 2 people being escorted were Bailey G and Ling Zhenhe. To avoid causing a commotion, both of them had hoods on. The intercepting soldier prepared to remove the hood to verify their identities. "Hold on." Shen Wengang immediately stopped him. The soldiers guarding the entrance, seeing this, all reached for their guns, and the atmosphere immediately became tense. "The speaker has ordered that no one is allowed to check," Shen Wengang said. The soldier was suspicious and immediately returned to the building to consult. 10 minutes later, the soldier ran out and nodded. Of course, they wouldn't be allowed to check the imposters. If they took off the hoods and saw another speaker, who wouldn't be suspicious, "Let them pass," the intercepting soldier ordered. The other soldiers breathed a sigh of relief and stood to the sides, creating a passageway. Shen Wengang and his group finally brought Bailey G and Ling Zhenhe into the Parliament building. "Report, enter," the imposter said excitedly. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Now that the people had been captured, his heart could finally be at ease. 6 Dark Knight members escorted 2 hooded people in. "Remove their hoods," the imposter ordered. Shen Wengang stepped forward and removed the hoods from the 2 men. The imposter was overjoyed when he saw their faces. "That's them." It wasn't easy. Bailey G and Ling Zhenhe squinted, adjusting to the indoor light, and then looked around. This was his office, but someone had taken it over. He walked to the guest sofa and sat down directly, and no one stopped him. The imposter frowned, but didn't say anything. "Take him out first," the imposter said, pointing to Ling Zhenhe next to him, but no one moved. The imposter realized that something was wrong. After Bailey G sat down, he crossed his legs, took out a cigarette from his pocket, and lit it. The 6 Dark Knight members looked at him without saying a word. "What are you doing?" the imposter asked sternly. Still, no one spoke. Everyone knew he was an imposter, and no one would pay attention to him. "Cuff him," Bailey G ordered. "Yes, sir." 2 Dark Knight squad members acknowledged the order and walked towards the imposter. "What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you rebelling?" the imposter shouted loudly. The 2 members were unmoved and continued to approach. The imposter hurriedly ran towards the inside of the desk, because there was an alarm button inside. As long as he pressed the alarm button, the people outside would rush in. Bang! A sharp dagger flew directly over and stuck into the table, stopping him from moving forward. The person who threw it was Luer, who was standing next to Shen Wengang. After more than half a year of training, she had become very mature. She no longer giggled when performing tasks, but had a serious face. "I advise you to surrender immediately, to avoid suffering," Shen Wengang said. The 2 members continued to approach, already taking out handcuffs. He understood everything. The commotion in the city tonight was to distract him. And behind it all, they were the ones pulling the strings, with the goal of successfully entering the Parliament building. But he really couldn't understand when the Dark Knight squad had sided with him. But now was not the time to think about these things. "You want to catch me? Not so easy." The imposter was exasperated, and raised his hands upwards. Red curtains quickly descended on the 4 walls of the office. It turned out that he was also prepared. Chapter 238. Zhuang Zhangai verifies identity. The most troublesome aspect of Red Curtain is the hallucinogen it releases. Even a slight inhalation can cause immediate unconsciousness. However, this time, they were well prepared. Several team members quickly threw a few bionic mechanical grenades at the surrounding walls. These grenades were specially made, containing not explosives, But nanobots are the nemesis of Red Curtain. After the grenades were thrown, they firmly attached to the walls, and then, invisible nanobots swarmed out, continuously spreading outwards. Red Curtain was rapidly broken down at a speed visible to the naked eye. In addition, to prevent the released hallucinogens from affecting anyone, they had taken central control capsules before departure. Therefore, this time, Red Curtain did not cause any harm to anyone. How could this be? The imposter was shocked. This move was supposed to be unstoppable, yet it was so easily defeated. The team members didn't give him any more chances. Immediately using a teleport to stun him, Bailiji stubbed out his cigarette and walked to the desk to issue a series of instructions. The Central Military Region's defenses at the Parliament building were revoked, and all troops were sent to various residential areas to be responsible for their respective patrols. The officers in the military region breathed a sigh of relief upon receiving the order, shaking their heads with wry smiles. Believing they had overthought things, the zombies also gradually disappeared and quieted down. After this moment, Zhangyu encountered no obstacles along the way and successfully arrived at the Parliament building. Report, Commander, Southeast Military Region. Commander Zhang has arrived. A soldier entered to report. Let him in, Bailiji said. Yes, the soldier saluted, turned, and left the room. Shen Wengang and his team of 6 members were on duty outside, responsible for security. Ling Zhanhe was still in the office at this moment, talking with Bailiji. Baili, Zhangzhangai was about to speak but stopped when he saw someone else in the office. Hey Wang, consider this matter, and give me your reply later, Bailiji said. All right, Speaker, then I'll go out first. Ling Zhanhe stood up, saluted both commanders, and then turned to leave the office. After Ling Zhanhe left, Zhangzhangai strode up to Bailiji and circled him, examining him. What are you looking at? Bailiji asked with a smile. When was the last time you went to our Southeast Military Region? Zhangzhangai asked. Lao Zhuang, why are you so suspicious? Bailiji pointed at him and laughed. Answer the question. Zhangzhangai was very serious. Let me think. The last time I went should have been in the summer of 53. Bailiji leaned back on the sofa, carefully recalling. Which month specifically? Zhangzhangai was not satisfied with this answer. Which month? Let me think. Right, July 20th, Bailiji finally remembered, because there was a national holiday afterwards. How many days did you stay there? Zhangzhangai continued relentlessly, trying to trick him. I went and returned on the same day. Why, did you want me to stay overnight? Bailiji replied. The answer was flawless, but Zhangzhangai was still uneasy. What did you say to me when you left? Zhangzhangai continued to ask. Lao Zhuang, are you done yet? It's been so long, who would remember? Bailiji laughed and scolded. Truly being bitten by a snake once, he was extremely cautious. Think carefully. You were about to board the plane and even gave me something. Zhangzhangai prompted. I gave you something. Bailiji frowned, carefully recalling. He slapped his thigh. I remember, the Hawaiian calligraphy, right? Damn. I forgot if you didn't mention it. Where's the calligraphy? Give it back to me. Bailiji remembered the Hawaiian calligraphy was a famous ancient calligraphy piece. At the time, Zhangzhangai pleaded endlessly to borrow it for viewing, and Bailiji reluctantly agreed to lend it to him for a month. However, he later forgot about it due to being busy. Damn. Careless. Zhangzhangai regretted it, blaming himself for not changing the reason. Who brings a calligraphy piece when carrying out a mission? I'll send it to you later. Zhangzhangai prevaricated, but in his heart, he thought, returning it was impossible. Remember, return it to me as soon as possible. Otherwise don't even think about borrowing anything from me next time. Bailiji warned him. Okay. Zhangzhangai agreed, finally getting past this matter, truly lifting a stone to drop it on his own foot. Brother Baili, I have a question that I haven't been able to figure out. Zhangzhangai asked. Now that he had confirmed that the Bailiji in front of him was real, he could ask about the zombie matter. What question? Bailiji asked. Why can you mobilize the zombies? Zhangzhangai asked. Mobilize zombies? I can't. Bailiji immediately denied. Can't? That shouldn't be. Zhangzhangai was somewhat surprised to hear this reply. What's wrong? Bailiji asked. After entering Kyoto, I discovered that those zombies seem to be cooperating with their actions. Zhangzhangai said. Is that so? Bailiji was also somewhat surprised. You don't know? Zhangzhangai was somewhat confused by Bailiji's expression. I don't know, Bailiji replied. Then that's strange. Zhangzhangai muttered to himself. Wait a minute. Bailiji also realized the problem and called Ling Zhanhe in from the door. Chapter 239. Bailiji's reverse layout. Seeking. Will there be zombies involved in tonight's operation? Biology asked. Yes, Ling Zhenhe confirmed. You can mobilize zombies. Biology asked. I guess you could say I can. Ling Zhenhe replied. You either can or you can't. What do you mean guess? Biology glared at him. I've subdued a few holy envoys from the redcoats. They can mobilize them. Ling Zhenhe explained he had already thought of this reason. He wasn't afraid of being questioned or investigated. That explains it. Biology understood and nodded. Zhongzhang also dispelled his doubts upon hearing this answer. Everything made sense. Alright, I understand. You can leave now, Biology said. Yes, Ling Zhenhe saluted, then turned and left the office. Who is he? Zhongzhang asked. Oh, he's someone recommended by Lao Yan, a retired soldier. He was the one who saved me last time, Biology replied. Zhongzhang nodded, not asking further since Yan Xiangping recommended him. There shouldn't be any problems. I've already sent people to verify his information. Don't worry, I'll be careful, Biology said. What exactly happened to you before? How could you? Zhongzhang changed the subject, no longer dwelling on it. That's a long story. Biology recounted the events. It turned out that on the eve of last year's Lunar New Year, his convoy was attacked after leaving the parliament building. The driver, Wang Yang, took advantage of the chaos to drive the car away from the convoy, after which he fell unconscious. It wasn't until recently that Ling Zhenhe sent people to rescue him and take him to the southwest military region. I see. Then this driver, Wang Yang, is a big problem, Zhongzhang said. Yes. Actually, the Central Military Region's investigation team has been secretly monitoring this matter all along, but Wang Yang has been staying at home since he was suspended from his duties. I just inquired, and so far, no useful intelligence has been monitored, Biology replied. This matter is now a foregone conclusion. It's clear that the redcoats orchestrated all of this, Zhongzhang said. Yes, that's right. But I haven't figured out how to handle this matter next, Biology said. What do you mean? Zhongzhang asked. So far, the higher-ups of the redcoats shouldn't have received the news yet, Biology said. You mean, you want to continue pretending to be that imposter? Zhongzhang was somewhat surprised. It's not that serious. The redcoats alone aren't worth me wasting my energy on, Biology said. Then what do you mean? Zhongzhang was confused. I'm thinking about how to use this to lure out the big fish behind the scenes, Biology said. This. I'm afraid that's not very realistic. Now that this imposter has been exposed, the redcoats aren't fools. They won't risk anything for him anymore, Zhongzhang said. That's right. Since we can't hide this, we might as well use it in reverse, Biology replied. Use it in reverse? Zhongzhang indicated that his imagination wasn't big enough. That's right. A chess piece on the board, as long as it hasn't been completely removed from the board, will always have its use. Some useless pieces may become the key to turning the tide at special times, Biology said. Zhongzhang didn't understand. He didn't understand Go. So he just listened and didn't say anything more. However, there's still a problem that can't be solved at the moment, Biology said. What problem? Zhongzhang asked. According to our current technical means in China, there's no way to achieve remote, undetectable monitoring, Biology said. Zhongzhang understood. This was a technical bottleneck. Remote monitoring is easy to achieve, but undetectable monitoring is not. We don't have the technology for this. I think there might be a place that does, Zhongzhang replied. Oh? Where? Biology asked. I don't know if you've heard of the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce, Zhongzhang asked. Huatuang Chamber of Commerce again? Biology had been hearing this name frequently these past few days. Logically speaking, the entire parliament had once endorsed the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce, and later sent people to participate in their headquarters completion celebration, so almost everyone knew about it. However, Biology was missing a lot of information during his coma. You know about it? Zhongzhang asked. Yes, I heard Yan Xiangping mention it when I was recuperating in the southwest military region some time ago, Biology replied. Zhongzhang nodded. Are you clear about the background of this Huatuang Chamber of Commerce? Biology asked. Alright, the thing he least wanted to mention had finally come. Zhongzhang felt a headache coming on. He really didn't know how to explain this matter as a member of parliament. He couldn't take the position of a non-governmental organization to discuss the issue. But that's how things happen step by step. Now that it had happened, so be it. But now Biology's return had brought the problem back to square one. If you were to tell the truth, the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce's business was indeed a bit out of bounds. At the very least, it shouldn't exceed the parliament's influence. Didn't you ask Lao Yan? Zhongzhang didn't answer directly, but asked instead. Chapter 240. He Jing Who Comes to See You. Did you ask old Yan? Zhongzhen Yu asked. I asked. He said the Huituang Chamber of Commerce is a non-governmental organization. It provided a lot of help to China in dealing with the zombie rat problem before. Bailey Ji replied. Anything else? Zhongzhen Yu looked at him. He also said that the council unanimously approved and endorsed the Huituang Chamber of Commerce. Bailey Ji said, yes, that's right. Zhongzhen Yu nodded in agreement, but I don't think it's that simple. Bailey Ji said, what's wrong? Zhongzhen Yu asked. Feigning ignorance. He had to feign ignorance. If he revealed everything he knew, Bailey Ji might consider suppressing the Chamber of Commerce without sufficient investigation. If that were the case, the problem would be significant. He wasn't worried about the consequences of the council falling out with Dongfang Chen. He was just concerned that, given Dongfang Chen's personality, the council might not be able to obtain more technology from him in the future. This would be a huge loss for the entire country. Therefore, at this moment, Zhongzhen Yu decided to temporarily conceal the truth. Do you guys in the southeast military region raise rats? Bailey Ji suddenly changed the subject. Raise rats? Zhongzhen Yu was puzzled. Yes, Yan Zhangping has turned the southwest military region into a pigsty and is raising a large number of rats. Bailey Ji said he already knew the reason why Yan Zhangping was raising rats, and the Huituang Chamber of Commerce was involved behind the scenes. Asking other military regions if they were raising rats would reveal the extent of the Huituang Chamber of Commerce's infiltration into each military region as expected. Old ginger is spicier. Why would he raise rats in the military region? Zhongzhen Yu didn't understand. You don't know? Bailey Ji looked surprised. I don't know. Zhongzhen Yu spread his hands, indicating that he really didn't know. Alright. Bailey Ji nodded. This indicated that the cooperation between the Southeast Military Region and the Huituang Chamber of Commerce was not as close as that of the Southwest Military Region. Wait, why did you suddenly ask this question? Why is old Yan raising rats in the military region? Zhongzhen Yu became anxious when he saw that Bailey Ji didn't plan to say more. How could Zhongzhen Yu not know something that even Bailey Ji, who had been in a coma for half a year, knew? Would that prove that Zhongzhen Yu had wasted the last 6 months? How could that be allowed? I'm not sure about that. You can ask him. Bailey Ji didn't plan to answer this question. Report. Enter. Chairman, He Jinghu, the director of the security department, is here. The messenger came in to report. Okay, tell him to come in. Bailey Ji nodded. Yes, old Zong, I have something else to do, so I won't keep you. Bailey Ji said. All right then. Zhongzhen Yu was no longer in the mood to stay. He wanted to ask Yan Zhangping what he was up to after Zhongzhen Yu left. He Jinghu walked in. Chairman, you were looking for me? He Jinghu asked. Old He, come, sit down. Bailey Ji greeted. Yes. He Jinghu obeyed and sat down. He was an old subordinate of Bailey Ji, so he was more reserved. Old He, how much do you know about the Huituang Chamber of Commerce? Bailey Ji asked. Chairman, this Huituang Chamber of Commerce was initially a non-governmental organization established by a real estate developer in Yusa province. When the council allowed the resettlement areas to spontaneously form defense forces, it began to operate some businesses to raise supplies within the Milan resettlement area. He Jinghu said it seemed that the security department had also done its homework. Yes, continue. Bailey Ji nodded. Yes. From some of the clues we currently have, there may be a larger force behind the Huituang Chamber of Commerce. He Jinghu said. Tell me more. Bailey Ji wanted to know this. Our first contact with the Huituang Chamber of Commerce was when the military and political department was preparing to establish the Dark Knight Squad. At that time, the detachment responsible for finding asymptomatic infected people went to the Milan resettlement area in Yusa province. At that time, the Huituang Chamber of Commerce had just been established, but it already had initial strength. According to Duan Bing, the director of the 2nd Division of the Security Department who led the team at the time, they already had the ability to provide electricity to the entire resettlement area. Later, we specifically sent people to secretly investigate and found that there were no normally functioning generator sets around the resettlement area. Until now, we have not found where their electricity comes from. This is a suspicious point. Soon after, the topic of zombie rats was suddenly hyped up. You know about this matter. The issue of zombie rats was brought to the council. At that time, Councillor Yan mentioned a person, who, Bailey Ji asked. He Jinghu was stunned for a moment. He didn't fully understand the actions that had just taken place that night and didn't know about the real and fake chairman. So, in his mind, the council meeting at that time was presided over by Bailey Ji himself. How could he not know the content of the meeting? After Bailey Ji asked, He also realized the problem, so he changed his words. Oh, continue. This person is the mysterious person who provided us with information before. He Jinghu explained he didn't know why Bailey Ji asked, but since he asked, it meant that he might not remember it very well, so it was always right to explain it. Bailey Ji nodded. He knew the mysterious person. He was the one who revealed the virus characteristics and the two major news of the impending ecological crisis. Chapter 241 Analysis of Huituang Chamber of Commerce. Counselor Yan said that the mysterious person could provide a kind of ultrasonic transmitter that could drive away zombie animals. At that time, as you know, zombie rats came out day and night, were huge in number, and were not easy to hunt. This ultrasonic transmitter can be said to be the only effective solution. However, the price is very high, 10,000 crystal cores per unit. He Jinghu said Bailiji didn't know about these things, as he didn't preside over that meeting. At that time, the secret research department under the military and political department specially sent people out to hunt zombies in order to study the characteristics of crystal cores. In the end, 3 soldiers were infected before they obtained 5 crystal cores. It can be seen how much of a price it would take to obtain 10,000 crystal cores. He Jinghu said after being infected with a virus, there is no cure, and it has the same meaning as sacrifice. According to the statistical data at that time, the total demand for ultrasonic transmitters was about 600 units. That would be a budget of 6 million crystal cores. At that time, neither the council nor the military regions could come up with this sum of crystal cores. In the end, Counselor Yan, on behalf of the council, borrowed this sum of crystal cores from Huituang Chamber of Commerce. However, Huituang Chamber of Commerce was not doing it for free. They hoped that the council could issue an announcement in an official capacity to acknowledge their legitimacy. Bang! Bailiji slammed the table upon hearing this. He Jinghu was caught off guard by Bailiji's sudden rage. He didn't understand why the speaker suddenly brought up this matter again, and was still so angry. Speaker, what's wrong? He Jinghu asked. Oh, it's nothing. I'm angry with myself for not knowing why I made such a decision at the time, Bailiji explained. He couldn't say he was unaware. All right. Huituang Chamber of Commerce took advantage of that opportunity to formally enter the national spotlight. Since then, the super economic strength and research and development strength they have shown have reached an incredible level. He Jinghu added, did you send someone to test the ultrasonic transmitter you mentioned just now? Are there any problems? Bailiji asked. This, He Jinghu was ashamed. What's wrong? Bailiji frowned and asked. At that time, after I got the goods, I took one, and as far as I know, the military and political department also took 2, and you seem to have taken one as well. He Jinghu said he didn't understand what was wrong with Bailiji today. He clearly knew everything, yet he still asked himself. Moreover, he had already reported the investigation results at that time. What were the investigation results? Bailiji asked. Speaker, you were the one who arranged this matter at the time, don't you remember? He Jinghu finally couldn't help but ask. I'm asking you, Bailiji emphasized. Yes. The results of the investigation at that time were fruitless. From the appearance, it was indeed a transmitter. But the strange thing is that the outer shell was integrally formed, without any traces of splicing, and could not be disassembled. Helpless, we used violent disassembly methods. By the time it was disassembled, all the components inside were already damaged. Even more strange is that as long as this ultrasonic transmitter is buried in the ground, it will disappear without a trace in an instant. We wanted to observe its working principle up close, but we couldn't achieve it. He Jinghu said. Bailiji's brows furrowed deeply. The more secretive it is, the more it shows that there are secrets inside. At that time, we were also worried that Huituang Chamber of Commerce might have other purposes behind doing this. So, we specially established a special team to conduct an in-depth investigation. From the investigation results, the president of Huituang Chamber of Commerce is just an ordinary real estate businessman, and the employees under him are all ordinary people recruited in Binjiang. In the entire Chamber of Commerce, except for the president's secretary, there is not a single highly educated person. This is completely inconsistent with the technological strength they have shown. Therefore, we concluded that behind this Huituang Chamber of Commerce, there must be an even bigger hand secretly manipulating everything. He Jinghu said. Bailiji nodded. He also believed that only in this way could the rapid rise of Huituang Chamber of Commerce be explained. By the way, Speaker, I have another guess. He Jinghu added. Oh? Speak, Bailiji said. I was thinking, could the person behind Huituang Chamber of Commerce be that mysterious person? He Jinghu said. On this point, your guess coincides with mine. However, there is also a problem here. How did this mysterious person manage to solve the problems in technologies that so many of our Chinese scientists have not been able to figure out? Obviously, this is not something that one person can do, Biology said. Are you saying that behind this, it might not be a person, but a mysterious organization? He Jinghu asked. It's very possible. It's just that I don't know which side this organization is on, and whether it will pose a threat to China, Biology said. Up to now, the mysterious person has revealed news several times, and they have all been beneficial to China. And on the surface, both Huituang Chamber of Commerce and the Mercenary Guild are actively participating in local construction. Judging from these situations, I think they should be on China's side, He Jinghu analyzed. The reasoning is correct. However, even if they are on China's side, there are many different situations. It would be good if they were on the side of the council or on the side of the people, but if they are only on the side of individual interest groups, then it would not be a good thing, Biology said. Chapter 242. The first phase of underground construction is completed. I think you're overthinking it. I don't think the latter is very likely. If they were siding with a particular interest group, they wouldn't have chosen a small real estate developer to be the chairman of the Huituang Chamber of Commerce, He Jinghu said. Perhaps this is a way for the other party to deliberately hide their identity? Don't forget, there may be some kind of close relationship between the Southwest military region and that mysterious person, Biology said. He Jinghu nodded in agreement with the ability to build a relationship with the top leader of the military region. How could they not have anyone else available? From today onwards, Dark Knight will be transferred from the military and political department and placed under your security department. We must increase the monitoring of the Huituang Chamber of Commerce and try to find out where that mysterious organization comes from, Biology ordered. Yes, around 9 o'clock in the morning, Zhongzhen Yu arrived at the Southwest military region in a hurry. As soon as he entered the military region, he saw the differences from before. The military region's open space was full of temporary housing, densely packed, as if afraid of wasting any space, looking just like a doghouse. What the hell is Lao Yan doing? Zhongzhen Yu was puzzled. Lao Yan, what exactly are you doing in the military region? Zhongzhen Yu came to Yan Zhangping's office and questioned him. Is the matter in Kyoto over? Yan Zhangping asked instead of answering. It's over. Zhongzhen Yu sat down heavily, having not slept all night, looking a little tired. Was it smooth? Yan Zhangping continued to ask. Smooth? If you hadn't told me personally, I wouldn't have believed it. The Red Robe Society is really audacious, daring to do such a thing, Zhongzhen Yu exclaimed. It's good that it went smoothly. The Red Robe Society has great ambitions and extremely widespread infiltration. It may not be easy to eradicate them completely, Yan Zhangping said. I almost let you lead me astray. I came here to ask you, how did you turn the Southwest military region into this ghostly state? Zhongzhen Yu asked. Did Biology tell you? Yan Zhangping asked with a sidelong glance and a smile. Yes, Zhongzhen Yu replied. What did he say? Yan Zhangping continued to ask. He said that you were raising a large number of rats in the military region, turning the military region into a doghouse. He also asked me if I knew about this, and I said I didn't. Zhongzhen Yu said. That's all. Yan Zhangping looked at him. That's all. Zhongzhen Yu said. Haha. Yan Zhangping smiled and then shook his head. What are you laughing at? Zhongzhen Yu asked, puzzled. He's letting you come to learn, Yan Zhangping said. Learn? Zhongzhen Yu was even more confused. That's right. The purpose of letting you come is to learn the technique of raising rats, Yan Zhangping explained. Learn from you? How is that possible? Zhongzhen Yu asked back with wide eyes. Don't want to learn? Then forget it. I'm too lazy to teach anyway. Yan Zhangping leaned back in his chair. No, something's not right. Something's going on here. Zhongzhen Yu pondered. You first tell me, what are you raising these rats for? Zhongzhen Yu asked. Of course, it's for getting crystal cores, Yan Zhangping said. Getting crystal cores? Zhongzhen Yu frowned. Yes. Don't you know that zombie rats also produce crystal cores? Yan Zhangping asked back. Zhongzhen Yu stopped talking and began to think. That's right. Humans can't regenerate, but rats can. Moreover, rats reproduce quickly. As long as we control it properly, wouldn't it be like having a printing press? Zhongzhen Yu understood. Although the principle is simple, upon closer examination, achieving large-scale breeding is not an easy task. There are all kinds of problems involved. Let's go. Take me to see. Zhongzhen Yu thought of this and lost his composure. When it comes to crystal cores, it's a major matter related to weapons and equipment, so he couldn't help but pay attention. I'm not going, you can go and see for yourself. If you don't understand anything, just ask the soldiers on duty. Jens Hangping shook his head, coming to learn the ropes was a trap dug by biology, and he said he was unwilling to be so eager. Seeing that Jens Hangping was unwilling to move, Zhongzhen Yu didn't waste any words and strode out. Jens Hangping wanted to show off, but he wasn't in the mood to cooperate with him. Not long after Zhongzhen Yu left, Yan Fangfang came in. Dad, Dongfang Chen has something to ask you, Yan Fangfang said, handing over a cell phone. Okay, Jens Hangping took the phone. Xiao Chen, what's the matter with the call? Jens Hangping answered the phone and asked, Commander Yan, I'm calling to tell you that the first phase of the construction of the 6 underground fortifications in your military region has been completed and is ready for acceptance. Dongfang Chen said, okay. Great. Where's the entrance? I'll go down and take a look first. Jens Hangping was overjoyed. The entrance is in the basement of the office building. Dongfang Chen replied, the office building? Isn't it inappropriate to set it up in this place? Jens Hangping asked. It doesn't matter, you can add entrances according to your needs later, Dongfang Chen explained. Okay, Jens Hangping stood up and left the office. Going downstairs to the basement, Yan Fangfang also followed. Chapter 243. Zhongzhengai joins the rat-raising army. The area on the negative first floor wasn't large, and he quickly saw a huge hexagonal pattern printed on a heavy iron door. Yan Zhangping walked to the iron door, verifying identity. Verification passed. Click. There was an identity verification camera and a small screen on the door. As the prompt sounded, the door opened. Yan Zhangping and Yan Fangfang walked in one after another. This was a relatively long passage extending downwards at an angle. The ground of the passage was treated to be non-slip. There were many lights installed inside, and the width and height were very large, so they didn't feel any oppression after walking about 100 or 200 meters. There was another door. After identity verification again, the two successfully reached the interior of the defense works. The inside was very empty. Except for lighting, ventilation, and signs, there was nothing else. The walls, floor, and ceiling had all been specially treated, and were very smooth and clean. The entire site was a square of about 100 meters on each side, with no pillars in the middle. They weren't curious about how this space was supported without load-bearing columns, because they were already used to it in Dongfang Chen's underground base. Such structures were everywhere. In Dongfang Chen's words, those pillars were a compromise, a perfect compromise to reality. Although he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but be curious. Such a huge project. He didn't see any earth being moved in the military camp, didn't see a grain of sand or a bag of cement being transported. He didn't even see a single worker or a piece of construction equipment. How was such a project completed? It should be known that the Mosin Arc base mobilized nearly 400,000 people and countless construction equipment of various types, but they didn't achieve such construction quality and speed. How exactly did you do it? Jens Hangping picked up the phone and asked with emotion, Commander Yan, isn't it enough to achieve the goal? The process is not important, Dongfang Chen said. Alright, Jens Hangping stopped dwelling on it. That's it then. I will send you some locators later. Wherever you need to add entrances and exits, just put the locators there, and I will take care of the rest, Dongfang Chen said. Anywhere is fine, Jens Hangping confirmed, as long as it's within the military camp. Anywhere is fine, Dongfang Chen gave a definite answer. That's good. Jens Hangping was very satisfied. Oh, right, have the other 5 military regions been completed? Jens Hangping asked. That's right, the first phase of the 6 underground defense works has been completed. You can start arranging it, Dongfang Chen said. Okay, I understand. Jens Hangping hung up the phone. When he returned to the office, Zhongzhengai was already waiting inside. Old Yan, how many crystal cores can you produce here each month? Zhongzhengai asked eagerly. Not many. Currently, the breeding scale of each military region is 100,000 rats, and on average, only about 20,000 crystal cores can be produced each month. We have calculated that basically harvesting at a ratio of 5 to 1 can largely maintain the balance of the rat population, Jens Hangping said. You mean every military region is raising them? Has your southwest military region become a breeding base? Zhongzhengai was almost shocked. It's not that bad. These cages just take up space. In fact, it doesn't take a few people to manage them. The soldiers still have to train as usual every day, Jens Hangping explained. Then why don't you get more cages? What are you doing with those prefabricated houses? Anyway, you don't need to worry about their health. Just replace them with a new batch every few months. Wouldn't it be better to raise them in the open air? It saves space and resources, Zhongzhangyu said. You think I don't want to? There are two reasons. First, food is limited. These gluttons consume a lot of food every day. Without enough food, what are you going to raise them with? Second, as I told you before, there are occasional zombie bat attacks here. If we don't take protective measures, I'm afraid they'll be wiped out overnight, Yan Zhangping explained when zombie bats were mentioned. Zhongzhangyu stopped talking. He understood Yan Zhangping's helplessness. Without enough crystal cores, there wouldn't be enough equipment to deal with these bats. Moreover, the biggest problem with raising rats is food. What's the point of raising them without food? Zhongzhangyu was dejected and disappointed. He had already taken over the scraps from the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce. If he wanted to raise rats himself, he would have to find other ways to solve the food problem. It's difficult. Zhongzhangyu shook his head, thinking, why are you sighing? Yan Zhangping asked. Old Yan, I'm not like you. I don't have such a rich and noble life. Zhongzhangyu said sourly. Don't be so discouraged. Xiao Chen said he's working on a solution to the food problem. Since he said it, is solving the problem far away? Yan Zhangping said quietly. Really? Zhongzhangyu looked at him and asked for confirmation. Believe it or not, anyway, I'm having the cages welded over time, just waiting for his news, Yan Zhangping said. Good. Great. How about this, old Yan? Arrange for a few technicians to stay in my southeast military region for a few days. I'll prepare the cages first, Zhongzhangyu said. Just like that, Zhongzhangyu also joined the army of raising rats without hesitation. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Fishing Flying Vehicle. Boss, the soldiers responsible for patrolling the Yangtze River have discovered something strange during their battles with mutant ants and mutant cockroaches, Yan Fangfang said to Dongfang Chen after returning to the office. Oh? What strange thing? Dongfang Chen asked. According to the soldiers, the corpses of mutant insects that fell into the Yangtze River are being attacked by a large number of fish. It is said that these fish are extremely aggressive and exist in vast numbers, Yan Fangfang said. Half a minute of silence. Alright, go to Jingmen City, Dongfang Chen said. 2 hours later, north bank of Changjing Bridge, Jingmen City. Boss, it's here, Yan Fangfang said through her digital eye. Drop the bait, Dongfang Chen said. Okay, Unit 1, drop the bait. Yan Fangfang took out the walkie-talkie and ordered as the order was issued. A helicopter lowered its altitude and dropped a giant autonomous ant, suspended by chains, into the river. Plug. With a sound of splashing water, the ant fell into the river, creating a large splash. Soon, the ant floated to the surface. Since the ant was dead, it floated quietly on the surface for the first dozen seconds without any movement. However, soon the water surface began to splash, and countless small fish filled with sharp teeth began to emerge, frantically gnawing at it. Dongfang Chen observed these fish up close through his digital eye. These fish were not zombie fish, but mutant fish. This also meant that the ocean might already be ruled by mutant fish. This kind of species, more terrifying and aggressive than piranhas, either doesn't exist, or becomes the overlord of a body of water once it does. There is no middle ground on this point. I understand the situation. Thank you for your hard work, Dongfang Chen said. It's no trouble, Yan Fangfang said. That's all then. Dongfang Chen finished speaking and disconnected the call. He paced back and forth, thinking for a while. Xiaolin, do we have a way to develop fishing boats in the base? Dongfang Chen asked. Commander, are you planning to catch those mutant fish? Xiaolin asked. That's right, Dongfang Chen said. The base can develop fishing boats, but I don't recommend you do so, Xiaolin replied. Why? Dongfang Chen asked. There may be large fish in the water, and the safety factor of fishing boats is low, Xiaolin replied. Then what do you suggest? Dongfang Chen asked. You can use anti-gravity engines to develop fishing airships, Xiaolin replied. That's a good idea. Then why not go a step further and merge the rat feed production line with a fishing airship development project? Design a capture aircraft that can simultaneously hunt and capture terrestrial mutant insects and aquatic mutant fish, and complete the production of rat feed directly on the aircraft. Dongfang Chen thought of a brilliant idea. After all, rats are not raised as livestock, but only for the purpose of obtaining crystal cores. Therefore, Anything that can provide energy can be used as food. Whether it is clean or has side effects is not within his consideration in that case. Why not make reasonable use of those mutant insects and mutant fish? They are all high in protein and have high nutritional value. If they are broken down and produced into feed, the rat's food problem will be solved in this way. The insects and mutant fish are also eliminated, and more crystal cores can be obtained, which is simply a win-win situation of course. He wouldn't go out and hunt these insects and fish himself after building the aircraft. Leaving aside daily wear and tear, how much money can he make selling feed? His plan was to sell the aircraft directly. Military regions and resettlement camps could all be his customers. The aircraft would be designed for purely foolproof operation and fully automatic feed production. In this way, there would be almost no technical threshold, and anyone could fly it then. The technology of raising rats would be made public. Perfect. Aren't people short of crystal cores? With the aircraft, they can produce their own feed, and with feed, they can raise rats. With enough feed, they can raise more rats. With rats, they have crystal cores in the end. Wouldn't these crystal cores obediently return to Dongfang Chen's own pocket? With such a closed loop, more people would join the army of producing crystal cores, and the development of the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce and the Mercenary Guild could be further accelerated, and the completion of the task would be just around the corner. Northeast Military Region, Xiaolin Province, Yuanjiang City, Baishan Resettlement Camp. August 5, 2055 AD, night. Mary, something bad has happened. A large number of zombies have appeared in the southeast direction, a security guard reported. Southeast direction, Mayor E asked with some surprise. Yes, the security guard replied. Are you sure you didn't see it wrong? Mayor E still couldn't believe it. The Baishan Resettlement Camp is located east of Yuanjiang City, and east of Yuanjiang City is the Yalu River. Therefore, it is possible for zombies to appear in the west and north, but it is impossible for them to appear in the southeast. Chapter 245, Korean Zombie Invasion. No, absolutely not wrong. The security team member who reported the news replied with certainty. Go, let's go take a look. Mayor E hurried out the door, heading towards the city gate. Climbing onto the city tower, he picked up his binoculars to observe. It was already dark, making it difficult to see clearly. However, the swaying of the trees in the distance and the vaguely visible movement of heads all proved that it was a large group of zombies. A very large group. Sound the alarm, Mayor E ordered. Subsequently, he picked up the phone and called the Northeast Military Region headquarters. The Northeast Military Region was different from the Southeast Military Region. The settlements here were not often surrounded by large numbers of zombies, nor did they receive frequent care from the Red Lotus sect. Therefore, seeing such a formation, they were very nervous. After receiving Mayor E's call for help, Suo Tunhua of the Northeast Military Region directly and clearly told him that there would be no rescue and that he should solve the problem himself. Mayor E felt utter despair upon hearing such a response. The rumors are true. It seems the council really wants us to fend for ourselves. Mayor E sighed. If it were an army attacking, he might have chosen to surrender without hesitation. But now facing zombies, surrender was impossible. He only had two paths before him, to fight head-on or to evacuate. Mayor E, how is it? Will the military region send reinforcements to save us? The secretary beside him asked. Mayor E shook his head, remaining silent. This. Then we can't possibly resist. The secretary panicked. What the hell are you yelling about? Look at how cowardly you are, Mayor E scolded. Seeing Mayor E lose his temper, the secretary lowered his head and said nothing more. But it was clear that he was trembling all over with fear. He looked into the distance, frowning, clenching his fists, engaged in a difficult internal struggle to fight or to retreat. If they fought, the hope of victory was slim. If they retreated, the risk factor would be very high if the zombies chased after them. Moreover, it was night, and it was hard to say whether they would encounter other zombies on the road during the evacuation. Mayor, why don't we retreat? We don't have any weapons in our hands. We definitely can't hold out, the secretary suggested, gathering his courage. There was no other way. When it came to life and death, he had to try. The mayor glanced at him. Ignoring him, he was still weighing the pros and cons. Mayor, don't hesitate any longer. Once the zombies pounce, we won't be able to retreat even if we want to. Seeing Mayor E still hesitating, the secretary continued to urge him. Shut your trap. Shut up. I told you to shut up. You coward, when the zombies come, I'll make you the first one to charge forward. Mayor E flew into a rage, slapping him, followed by several kicks. Pass down my order. All security team members assemble and get on the city wall. Those with guns use guns, those without guns grab knives and chop. Behind you are your families, hold on even if you die. Mayor E was going all out either way, they would die. Staying in the city still had some reliance. Once they left the city, without any defenses, it would be even more impossible to deal with the zombies. Moreover, these ordinary people had not been trained. A zombie attack would definitely turn them into a disorganized mess, fleeing in terror. They would die even faster than Mr. Pushin. If we launch such a long-distance raid and fail to conquer it, we will be very passive, Yang Cheng Xiao said from the side. Mr. Yang, there is no need to worry. One city indeed has the possibility of failure, but what about two? What about three? Pushin Xiaodui smiled and said, you mean, we have simultaneously launched attacks on 3 cities? Yang Cheng Xiao was somewhat surprised. That's right. As long as any one city is captured, these zombies will not be without a place to settle. Moreover, their Huaguo strategy is to actively withdraw from the cities and establish settlements in the suburbs. Then these cities can be used by us at any time. So, no matter the outcome, we will have a place to retreat to before dawn. Pushin Xiaodui as explained. Yang Cheng Xiao nodded, indicating that he understood. There is also a problem. Huaguo has always been firm on territorial issues. If the military comes to support, I am afraid the consequences will be very serious, Yang Cheng Xiao continued. Mr. Yang, I hope you understand that if you don't want to take any risks but want to obtain huge benefits, I am afraid you are thinking too much. There is an old saying in Huaguo that wealth comes from taking risks. You understand? Pushin Xiaodui as his attitude became a little stern and cold. Mr. Pushin's lesson is correct. Yang Cheng Xiao hurriedly bowed slightly and said no more. However, you don't need to worry about this point. The spies we have placed in Huaguo have sent back news that the Huaguo Council has passed a bill requiring all settlements to save themselves. Obviously, they have strategically abandoned control over these places. So, if I am not mistaken, the military will not come to rescue, Pushin Xiaodui as explained. Understood. Yang Cheng Xiao bowed again at the same time. Zombies were also discovered in the Balagao settlement in Yuanjiang City and the Shihao settlement in Chiba City. The Baishan settlement and the Balagao settlement are both located in Yuanjiang City, and to their south is the Shihao settlement, which belongs to Chiba City. The distance between these 3 settlements is only a dozen or 20 kilometers, which is not too far. Chapter 246, Assimilation and Rescue. What did you say? Mayor E was shocked upon hearing the report. The phone call came from Zhang Yunel. The person in charge of the Balagao shelter. Zhang Yunel was the head of the Balagao shelter and the leader of the temporary command team. Mayor E was the mayor of Yuanjiang City. His superior Zhang Yunel's phone call was also a plea for help. Mayor E felt a chill run down his spine after hearing this phone call. Why are there so many zombies in the southeast direction? And why are they attacking 2 shelters at the same time? At this time, he didn't know that the Shihu shelter in Kainai City to the south had also been attacked by zombies, because Kainai City was not under his jurisdiction. Southeast direction. Yalu River? Could it be? Not good. Mayor E thought of a possibility and suddenly exclaimed in alarm. His hands trembled nervously as he hung up the phone and dialed again. He called Suo Tunhua again. Didn't I say that you should solve the problems of the shelters yourselves? The military region will not send troops, Suo Tunhua said after answering the phone. Counselor Suo, it's not about that. I suspect that these zombies have crossed over from Korea, North Korea, Mayor E said. From Korea? What evidence do you have? Suo Tunhua asked. It's very simple. Our Yuanjiang City is located at the easternmost part of Jichen Province, and the Baishan shelter is at the easternmost edge of Yuanjiang City. Further east is the Yalu River. And these zombies came from the southeast direction. Think about it, if they didn't come from Korea, where else could they come from? Mayor E stated his judgment. Suo Tunhua was silent for a long time, not speaking. Counselor Suo, Commander Suo, this matter is no longer just a matter of life and death for one shelter. I hope you can lend a helping hand, Mayor E said earnestly. I can't make a decision on this matter alone. I'll give you an answer later. After saying that, Suo Tunhua hung up the phone. Mayor E sighed deeply when he saw that the other party had hung up the phone. The enemy was already at the gates, and he didn't have so much time to wait. Moreover, now that 2 shelters had problems, he was even more overwhelmed. Northeast Military Region Command Headquarters. After Suo Tunhua hung up the phone, he frowned. Logically speaking, Under normal circumstances, if foreign forces were discovered crossing the border of China, that would be a declaration of war. Without a second word, war should be waged, but now it was zombies. Zombies had no brains. How could they understand what a border was? So, in essence, this was just an ordinary zombie attack incident. He couldn't make a decision on this matter, so he decisively called Speaker Bailey G. Old SUO, "It's so late, is there something you need to call about?" Bailey G asked after answering the phone. "Speaker Bailey, a large number of zombies have appeared in the Beishan shelter in Yuanjiang City. According to the report from EG, the mayor of Yuanjiang City, these zombies may have come from Korea, North Korea, outside the border," SUO Tunhua said. "From Korea? Is the news accurate?" Bailey G asked. "The east side of the Beishan shelter is the Yalu River." EG said that those zombies came from the southeast direction, and the number is very large. He judged that this possibility is very high, SUO Tunhua said. "So, there is no conclusive evidence?" Bailey G asked. "Yes," SUO Tunhua replied. "If that's the case, then let's hold back for the time being. Even if they come from Korea, the zombies' attack behavior is unconscious, and it cannot be rashly regarded as an invasion. Moreover, if troops are sent, then other shelters will follow suit, claiming that zombies are running over from foreign countries at every turn. It will be difficult to distinguish between true and false, and we will be very passive at that time," Bailey G said. "According to past experience, large-scale zombie siege behaviors are generally manipulated behind the scenes by people from the Red Cloth sect. I think this time is no exception. From this perspective, it can be completely defined as an organized and purposeful act of aggression," SUO Tunhua expressed his opinion. "Then send a few bombers to give a warning. As for the others, let's wait and see before making a decision," Bailey G said. "Yes," SUO Tunhua hung up the phone immediately afterwards. He contacted Mayor E, informing him that he would send bombers over for air support. However, they would need to solve the subsequent problems themselves. Mayor E thanked him repeatedly. Being able to provide air support was already good. Zombies were already densely packed and didn't know how to avoid attacks. Would bombers be able to hit them accurately with every strike? In that case, his pressure would be greatly reduced. "There's one more thing, Councillor SUO. Our Balago shelter in Yuanjiang City has also encountered the same situation. Do you think you can support us as well?" Mayor E asked. "Okay," SUO Tunhua agreed. Not long after, SUO Tunhua received a call for help from Kainai City, learning that zombies had also been discovered at the Shihu shelter in Kainai City. At this moment, he felt that tonight's attack was definitely premeditated. He walked to the map, took out a magnifying glass, and carefully observed it. The three shelters that called for help were not far from the Yalu River, and the distances between them were also very close. What did this mean? This meant that this was a very clear attack, a naked act of invasion. Chapter 247 Encrypted Electromagnetic Waves. Issue the order. The flying squadron will depart immediately. Target the Baligu resettlement, the Baishan resettlement, and the Shihu resettlement. Bomb the zombie horde east of these three resettlement areas. Return immediately upon completion of the mission, so Tunhua commanded. "Yes, sir." 20 minutes later, the 15 bombers dispatched by the Northeast Military Region split into 3 groups of 5 each, arriving at the 3 resettlement areas almost simultaneously and commencing the bombing of the zombie horde outside the city. Within a dozen minutes, the land several kilometers outside the resettlement areas had been transformed into a vast ocean of flames. The remaining limbs and severed arms burned fiercely, casting a bright light. Standing on the city walls, Mayor E and his team were filled with joy. The resettlement areas should be saved, and they should be able to survive. At the rear of the zombie horde, several red-robed holy envoys clad in bright red cloaks witnessed this scene, their hands trembling involuntarily. "The military has finally taken action," Yang Chengshu said. "It seems we underestimated the Huaguo people's determination to defend their territory," Pu Tianzioazi said. He showed no fear, but rather a hint of excitement. "Pu Tianjin, what do we do next?" Yang Chengshu asked. "The zombie horde is too concentrated, and now it has suffered heavy losses. It's unrealistic to attack the city. Order the zombies to bypass the resettlement areas and advance toward Yuanjiang City. The urban area is unclaimed territory, we'll rest there first. Also, notify the other 2 routes to be sure to arrive at Yuanjiang City before dawn. We'll rendezvous there," Pu Tianzioazi said. "Yes, sir." Yang Chengshu had no objections. Northwest Military Region, Ganlan Province, Gold City, Master, did you rest well last night? Ling Luo opened the door and asked with a smile. Ling Luo, you beast. When the elders find out, they will tear you to pieces. Luo Sai, who was locked up tightly, with a strange hood covering his head. Master, don't worry, they won't. If the elders learn of your great sacrifice for the cyborg experiment, they will reward you handsomely, Ling Luo said, pushing up his glasses and smiling. Humph. You inhuman beast. I regret not listening to Ling Yu's advice and trusting you, this hypocritical fiend. Luo Sai, who gritted his teeth. Ling Yu? Ha, he's just a waste. You were right not to listen to him. If you had listened to him, your fate would not be much better than it is now. Ling Luo laughed. What do you mean? Luo Sai, who asked. You don't know yet, do you? Ling Yu's plan failed again. The spies he planted in Huaguo were easily removed. Now, he's still being punished in the Elder Hall. Tisk tisk tisk, he'll be lucky to escape with his skin. Ling Luo shook his head, seemingly in sympathy. Are you talking about number one? Luo Sai, who asked incredulously, his eyes wide. Maybe, who knows? In any case, his plan in Huaguo has completely failed. That's why I say he's a waste. He's been operating in Huaguo for so long, but he hasn't accomplished anything, and countless of his subordinates have defected. Ha, it's hilarious. I've never seen anyone as useless as him, Ling Luo said, laughing. Knock knock knock, someone knocked on the door. Come in, Ling Luo said coldly. Holy Sun, there's a situation. Please come and take a look, the newcomer said. He was a balding middle-aged man wearing a white coat and glasses, apparently a researcher here. Ling Luo ignored Luo Sai, who in turned to walk out. What's wrong? Ling Luo asked as he walked into another office. Holy Sun, look, this is the data detected by the isolation shield. It's not normal, the balding man said, pointing to a waveform diagram on the screen. The isolation shield was the hood on Luo Sai, whose head. Ling Luo pushed up his glasses, leaned closer, and bent down to look at the screen. Then he sat down and began operating the computer. He operated quickly, performing a series of adjustments to the waveform diagram. Soon, he completed the filtering. This electromagnetic wave seems to be encrypted, the balding man said after reviewing the waveform. After all, he was an industry expert. He had this much experience. Try to decipher it, Ling Luo said, standing up. Okay, the bespectacled man sat down and tried to crack the signal. First, he converted the electromagnetic wave into binary values. And then he transcoded the resulting binary values, but the result after conversion was gibberish. Holy Sun, it seems that this code should be the result of merging the original code with another unknown code used as a key. Unless we find a key code, we can't decipher it, the bespectacled man said, shaking his head after trying for a long time. Ling Luo frowned upon hearing this answer. This didn't seem right. How could encrypted code be sent from Luo Sai, whose brain? Could someone be listening? Not good. Ling Luo was shocked when he thought of this. Those two wastes, no wonder they could come back alive. It turns out they were deliberately released. Ling Luo gritted his teeth. He took out his phone, preparing to report this information back to the Elder Hall, but his hand stopped just as he was about to dial. Chapter 248. The signal is blocked. If he was being monitored, then his cyborg lab might already be exposed. If he was implicated by these two good-for-nothings, then he would really be at a great loss. No, he had to transfer as soon as possible, but relocation was also a big problem. So much experimental equipment made moving locations extremely troublesome. Moreover, the relocation process would inevitably delay the experiment's progress, and if the Elder Council were to blame him, he would be in deep trouble. Clang! Ling Luo swept everything off the table onto the ground, infuriated beyond words. Useless. All of you are useless, Ling Luo shouted furiously. The researchers next to him lowered their heads and stood quietly, not daring to utter a word. What do you think is the probability of electromagnetic waves being emitted under the isolation of the induction shield? Ling Luo asked, calming down. The induction shield can completely isolate electromagnetic waves. As long as it's within its coverage area, it's almost impossible for them to be emitted, the researcher replied. That's good. Conduct a detailed scan of the experimental subject's head and find the listening device for me, Ling Luo ordered. We've already conducted a scan and couldn't find it, the researcher replied. Couldn't find it? Why? Ling Luo asked. Our induction shield has a scanning accuracy of millimeters. Although it can lock onto the area where the signal originates, no listening device was found within that area. Therefore, I believe that the listening device should be on the micrometer scale, The researcher explained the working principle of the induction shield was to divide the induction area inside the cavity into 1 mm square blocks, detect these blocks separately, and finally transmit these detection signals to the computer for integrated analysis, and the size of the listening device was on the micrometer scale. 1 mm is 1000 micrometers, so the induction shield simply couldn't find the listening device. Micrometer scale? It seems that the organization called the Crimson Lotus sect is not as simple as the intelligence reports suggest. How can a group of rabble have such advanced technology? Ling Luo thought if it was on the micrometer scale, even if he dissected the bearded man's head, he wouldn't be able to find it. Of course, the experiment hadn't been completed yet, so he couldn't kill him immediately. This experimental subject cannot have any accidents in the short term. From now on, his induction shield is absolutely not allowed to be taken off. Do you hear me? Ling Luo said through gritted teeth, instructing. Yes, yes, the researcher hurriedly replied. Commander, the monitoring signal from Golden City has been blocked. It's possible that the monitor has been discovered, Xiaolin reported. Discovered? What happened? Dongfang Chen asked. According to the analysis of previous monitoring records, the monitoring target has been detained and may be used as an experimental subject for research on cyborgs. Due to the interruption of the signal, further judgment is impossible, Xiaolin replied. Is that so? It seems that this guy named Ling Luo is also a ruthless character. In order to do experiments, he can even harm his own teacher, Dongfang Chen said with a smile. Xiaolin didn't answer. Xiaolin, what will happen if the listening device can't connect? Dongfang Chen asked. If the listening device is disconnected from the server, it will continuously send signals, attempting to reconnect with the server, Xiaolin replied. Will it try to move its position? Dongfang Chen asked. No, Xiaolin replied. This design needs to be optimized. If the listening device detects that it's disconnected from the server, it should first try to reconnect. If it can't reconnect successfully within a certain period of time, it should try to move its position. Dongfang Chen suggested. How could one just stay put on one tree? Okay, Commander. However, this method is not 100% successful. If the monitoring target is completely shielded, moving the position will not have any effect, Xiaolin reminded. I know, but the probability will increase a bit, Dongfang Chen said. Okay, Commander, the optimization has been completed, Xiaolin said. Currently, in the 20 initial cooperative settlements, the Chamber of Commerce branch has been open for 3 days, and the traffic is not as heavy as the previous 2 days. After all, that is purely a place for consumption. Only with points in the card can one go to consume, but a mercenary guild is different. Business has begun to become hot with the economic recovery. People have hope, and everyone is starting to think about how to make money to improve their lives. So the mercenary guild has become their first stop to find ways. The mercenary guild is recruiting mercenaries in large numbers, and since the morning, there has been a long queue at the door. The recruitment conditions are very broad. Anyone over 18 and under 50, in good health, can come for an interview. Moreover, there is no gender restriction. This no gender restriction is too tempting. Women in the settlements have been severely deprived of their social status due to long-term unemployment and no income. Now the news that the guild is actually recruiting women has spread like wildfire, and the entire settlement has completely gone crazy. The women raised their heads and walked out of their homes, heading towards the mercenary guild. When women get ruthless, they are much more ruthless than men. It may also be that they have been oppressed for too long and need to be released. In this way, in the long queue that stretches as far as the eye can see, there is no place for men to stand. If you dare to queue, a group of women will dare to come up and drive you away. Chapter 249 Mercenary Guild Recruitment. Thus, the interview team became entirely composed of women. Seeing this, the Mercenary Guild quickly adjusted its interview methods so, one team became two, one team for men, one for women, interviewed separately. The positions the guild was recruiting for mainly included 1. Security positions. These positions primarily recruited internal security personnel for the guild and the Chamber of Commerce, with 200 openings. 2. Professional mercenary positions. These positions primarily recruited professional mercenaries for the guild, responsible for field missions, security tasks, armed escort missions, combat missions, and so on. This position had higher requirements, requiring applicants to be under 32 years old, and had requirements for height and physique. There were 500 openings, 350 for men and 150 for women. 3. Administrative positions. These positions recruited administrative staff for the Chamber of Commerce and the Guild, mainly responsible for financial management, records management, administrative management, window services, customer service, and other tasks, with 500 openings, all requiring female applicants. 4. Special talent positions. These positions mainly recruited those with special skills. Senior management personnel, engineering and technical personnel, highly educated individuals, and even those skilled in cooking, driving, or other irreplaceable skills were included in this category. Gender and age were not limited. 5. Laborers, responsible for some physical labor, but with fewer openings, only 50 were recruited, requiring male applicants. Between 30 and 40 years old, the upper limit for this recruitment was 1,500 people. Compared to the overall scale of hundreds of thousands of people in the entire settlement, these 1,500 positions were a drop in the bucket. However, the economic revitalization of the settlement could not rely solely on the Chamber of Commerce and the Guild. The Chamber of Commerce and the Guild acted as catalysts, igniters, the first domino. The settlement's economy needed to be solved by themselves. However, with a start, it would not be difficult to turn this economic cycle. The settlement had already distributed interest-free point loans to people on the first day, and these points were the first startup capital provided to them. Those without work could completely support themselves by doing some small business. Those who could make snacks sold snacks, those who could do handicrafts sold handicrafts, those who understood business opened small shops, and they would always find their own way, of course. There were also those who borrowed points and squandered them all. Once they were squandered, they were gone, and if they didn't revitalize their lives, it was their own problem. Others couldn't help with this even if they wanted to. Currently, the settlement only needed to ensure that people had something to do and could survive on a large scale with hope. The future would be better. These things didn't need to be taught. The leadership teams of each settlement were originally management personnel from various departments, and they were experienced in handling these matters under the coordinated efforts of the Chamber of Commerce and the settlement headquarters. The atmosphere of the entire settlement was completely renewed. The negative emotions such as despair, complaint, negativity, resistance, and hatred that could be felt everywhere had disappeared from the streets and alleys. Now everyone's face showed a long-lost smile. However, it is worth noting that everything has two sides. After the arrival of the virus, people went from hope to despair, and although they were dissatisfied, the main emotion was helplessness. No one wanted to see this situation, but since it happened, they could only face it strongly. Now that the economy of the settlement was recovering, people saw hope in despair, and rekindled the courage to live and the yearning for the future. Although life at this time could not return to the level before the virus outbreak, at least everything was improving, and people had a goal in their hearts. The most feared thing was that the little hope that had just been ignited in people's hearts would be extinguished again one day in the future. Once this flame was extinguished, it would be impossible to return to the original state. People would go crazy and run wild when they saw the hope of survival disappear, and the consequences would be very serious. Whether this day could be avoided depended partly on the future attitude and choices of the managers, and partly on the future changes in the situation. May we all be blessed with longevity, and though far apart, share the beauty of the moon together, in order to enjoy the benefits of being the first to eat crabs. The headquarters of each settlement was running at full power. Non-stop they imitated each other and shared experiences, just to maximize their interests. The mosquito repellent bracelet had already been used as a trump card. Flying back and forth between other settlements that had not yet cooperated. Therefore, in the past 2 days, the surrounding settlements had successively rushed to the cooperative settlement closest to them. They were going to purchase this mosquito repellent bracelet, and the purchase funds had already been borrowed from the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce. As for why the Huatuang Chamber of Commerce didn't directly sell the bracelets to them, but instead lent them money and let them buy them in various settlements, the reason was very simple. If the Chamber of Commerce directly shipped the goods to them, the price would definitely be 10 points, and it would be impossible to raise the price. Moreover, the settlement had to pay interest when borrowing from the Chamber of Commerce. At this time, even if they borrowed money and took the goods, they would not say good things about you, and would scold you for being a profiteer behind your back, which was definitely a thankless task. If they were allowed to take the goods from the settlement, the Chamber of Commerce's shipment volume would be the same and would not be affected. The interest on the loan would still be collected, which was no different from direct shipment. However, if they went to the settlement to buy, the settlement would earn the price difference, which had nothing to do with the Chamber of Commerce. And when they went to the settlement and saw that the economy was prospering and people's lives were getting better, and they were earning back a lot of points, what would they think? Chapter 250, Selling Bracelets at the Settlement Center. That would definitely make them eager to cooperate with the Huatong Merchant Guild immediately and quickly implement the establishment of a branch in their area. That way, the Merchant Guild could not only sell goods and make money but also use this as an opportunity for further marketing, achieving multiple goals at once. Therefore, the Merchant Guild wouldn't directly sell the goods to them. They could only let the resettlement camps handle this with money to be made. The resettlement camps were, of course, more than happy to do it. Sure enough, several groups of people from various resettlement camps around Changjing City arrived at the Baishan resettlement camp early in the morning. Mayor Su, aren't you being a bit too greedy? The mosquito repellent bracelet that sells for 10 points in the Merchant Guild is being sold for 20 points here, a man from another resettlement camp asked, dissatisfied. You're not putting it correctly. The 10 points is a resettlement camp's internal price, and each person can only buy one. If you think it's too expensive, you can wait. When the Merchant Guild opens in your resettlement camp, you'll be able to get the goods for 10 points, Mayor Su said. The man was choked speechless. As you can see, the Baishan resettlement camp is now on the right track. When various industries gradually resume work in production, and tax revenue increases, frankly, we won't even care about these points anymore. The reason why the Merchant Guild agreed to let us purchase goods in bulk is simple. They want this bracelet to be popularized as soon as possible. When the bracelet is widely used, the safety of the people can be guaranteed, and the infection rate can be reduced. This is also the fundamental reason why the Merchant Guild is willing to provide you with advanced loans to purchase the bracelets. I've made the reasoning very clear. It's up to you to decide whether to buy or not, Mayor Su said. Sometimes people are like this. The more you try to market to them in every possible way, the more indifferent they become. The more indifferent you are, the more they feel like they'll miss out on an opportunity if they don't buy. This business isn't selling bracelets, it's selling future risk. Whether they're willing to choose risk or spend a sum of points to deal with this risk is something they have to weigh for themselves. How about this? It's impossible for the bracelets to arrive all at once. Those who are interested can pay a deposit to the finance department. Those who aren't interested can take a look around the resettlement camp. When the goods arrive, we'll entrust the Merchant Guild to deliver the goods to your respective resettlement camps in order of the list, Mayor Su said. Some people hesitated, while others gritted their teeth and made a decision on the spot. They had also analyzed that it was because of their hesitation that they failed to secure those 20 spots last time, directly leading to the loss of opportunities again and again afterward. Therefore, they secretly warned themselves that they must never hesitate again in the future. The points they had in hand were originally borrowed to buy bracelets. If they didn't buy them, the points wouldn't generate any value in their hands. Some people bought them, and others were still hesitating, but no one wanted to fall behind, so they went to pay the deposit one after another. The situation in other cooperative resettlement camps was similar. The lines and marketing strategies were all discussed in advance, so the sales volume was still acceptable. Based on a minimum of 300,000 people in a resettlement camp, they would have a gross profit of 3 million points for each resettlement camp they successfully sold to. After deducting the delivery fee entrusted to the Huatong Merchant Guild, they could still net more than 2 million. If they successfully sold 2 dozen or so, they could easily make 20 to 30 million. These points were earned so easily. They were very satisfied with the profit they could make just by talking, without needing to invest anything. After the heads of the various resettlement camps who came to purchase the bracelets finished their negotiations, they went out for a walk. In particular, they visited the branches of the Huatong Merchant Guild and the Mercenary Guild and were deeply moved. The changes brought about by the Merchant Guild's entry into the resettlement camp were too obvious. The most obvious change was that the atmosphere of the entire resettlement camp was different. People were all smiles and full of vigor. Unlike their own resettlement camps, where everything was lifeless. Secondly, the living standards of the people had obviously improved, and people were no longer slovenly, but cleaned up neatly. When people are well fed and clothed, they know honor and disgrace. This sentence is absolutely correct. Also, the guild branch brought electricity to the entire resettlement camp, which was very impressive. Electricity is the fuel for social progress. With electricity, the resettlement camp has the opportunity to develop. They saw the dazzling array of goods in the Merchant Guild and the long lines of applicants in front of the guild, and they were filled with mixed feelings and regretted their initial decision. This was another grand scene since the end of the world. However, beneath this grand scene, undercurrents had already begun to form. Kyoto, Parliament Building, please have a seat, everyone, Bailey G said. Everyone sat down upon hearing this. The reason I've asked you all here today is to get your opinions on something. Councillor Jing, please tell everyone about the situation, Bailey Ji said Councillor Jing Cheng, a member of the parliament and the director of the Cultural Affairs Department at the same time. There were several other people in the conference room: Director of the Department of Legal Affairs, Pang Lijia, Director of the Department of Civil Affairs, Shang Yangping, Director of the Department of Security Affairs, He Jinghu, Director of the Department of Finance, Chen Guangxun. This is the situation. Yesterday, Niu Xingwang, the president of the Huatuang Merchant Guild, contacted us, wanting to invite another group of experts and professors to Binjiang. He plans to establish a college there, called the Huatuang Business College. He also consulted us on what procedures would need to be followed to establish a college, Jing Cheng said. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.